My name is Kinsley Smith. I'm a housewife celebrating 20 years of marriage. Our family is harmonious, and my husband David cherishes us deeply. I've lived my life devoted to my family, trusting in David. Our twin sons, for some reason, are prodigies with IQs of 150. They easily got into prestigious universities and are currently interning at the major corporation where David works. Though we've faced storms at times, our household has been smooth sailing. However, a storm that seemed it might sink us has arrived. It happened one afternoon. I decided to check out a slightly different store and extended my trip to a station a few miles away. As I wandered around with heavy bags, I encountered a man resembling my husband. Oh. What caught my attention was the woman next to him. She was noticeably younger than me and radiated an unreal beauty. This stunning woman was leaning on my husband, who's nearly 50, arm in arm, smiling blissfully. Is this? The words affair and infidelity came to mind. Unable to confront them, I ended up just taking a photo. By evening, drained of the energy to cook, I sat on the living room couch, staring at the photo on my smartphone. Then, I knew David had come home. What's wrong? There he was, seemingly unchanged. As if the man I saw today was someone else. But I had looked at the photo over and over. I even zoomed in. The suit, the bag, the hairstyle. In the photo were unmistakably David's. Did you happen to walk in front of the station a few miles away today? Attention emanated from him. Well, what time? In the evening. Not sure. She's very beautiful, isn't she? Almost doesn't look like an ordinary person, so beautiful. Like an actress or a model. Yes. That woman, yeah. She must be a model associated with the company. We're planning to launch a new commercial, so she's probably involved in that. Is that so? But you two seemed quite close. I showed him the smartphone I was holding. After a moment of silence, David confessed everything. Hearing the truth, I was speechless. I can't cook tonight. I'm sorry. Please eat out. Okay. With a guilty look, David turned and left the house. As he did, the tears I had been holding back started to flow. My sons returned home as David left and noticed me crying, but I couldn't respond to their questions. However, seeing the smartphone on the table, they were speechless. Mom, this. I've been deceived for 15 years. That's all I could finally say. What do you mean? He's been cheating? Hey, Jack. This woman. Yeah. Mom, what are you gonna do? Even if asked what to do, I have no answer. David said he loves this woman. But he also said he couldn't destroy our family. Yet, recalling the happy look on his face at that moment, it's hard to believe those were his true feelings. Maybe he really wants to live his life with her. Such thoughts keep coming to me. I always thought I was loved by my husband. I believed that living with David was my entire life. And yet, to think it has come to this. Maybe it's better to separate, for David's sake. Perhaps that would be best for him. When did Dad start doing this? 15 years ago, right? She said she's been deceived for 15 years. Oh, did she mention that? Listen properly. But it's too shocking. Mom must be more shocked. Yeah. How old is this woman? Hard to say, she's incredibly beautiful. Looks to be in her early 30s. She's 40. 40, huh? She's quite old then. A real piece of work. To think she'd get involved with someone like Dad. She could be one of the world's 7 wonders. Dad wants to live with this woman. Really? Yeah, he said that. But he also doesn't want to ruin our lives. That's impossible. You can't have both. Maybe if you're really rich. Right, an average employee can't manage that. Where does Dad's heart truly lie? His true feelings? Yeah, If his desire to live with her is real, holding him back won't make anyone happy. But why? I wonder why I never noticed that Dad's heart wasn't here. Was I too happy? Too happy? Yes, maybe I was so happy that I thought this was normal and couldn't read Dad's feelings. Mom, you're too kind. Dad's the one who cheated, you have every right to be angry. His feelings don't matter. But I'm the one who let it happen. Mom did everything a wife should do. There's no way he had complaints. You always make delicious meals. This is Dad's fault. That's right, Mom, you shouldn't blame yourself. But Dad's face was so happy. I've never seen him look that happy. Maybe he's happier with her than with me. But holding him back would only cause him pain. It's better if we split up, isn't it? Dad wants to be with her. If I wish for Dad's happiness, I should step aside, shouldn't I? Are you serious? Even though Dad is the one at fault? I think it's for the best. Well, if Mom thinks so, we can't stop her, but... Yeah, thank you. I think it's best to separate for Dad's sake too. It's for his happiness, more than staying with me. Even though I think this, the tears still come. It's like losing the air around me, and without air, you can't breathe. He was that important to me, and to think it has come to this. Mom, are you really okay with splitting up? Yeah, it's inevitable. For Dad to be happy, it's better if I step back. I believe that's what happiness is. Even if I've been deceived all this time, I've received so much happiness from him. Okay, then, Mom. You mind if I show him hell? Hell? Yeah, that's right. It's crazy that only Mom has to draw the short straw for Dad's and that woman's sake. If we're splitting up anyway, might as well make Dad taste hell. That's right. If we're doing this, might as well teach him a real lesson. Hearing my son's words made me think my decision to separate for my husband's sake was a lie. Splitting up for his happiness is just a nice idea. Inside me, there's hatred for being deceived for 15 years. It's definitely there. Yet, why was I trying to suppress those feelings? If I could really show him hell, if I could really drop him into it, then I want to do that. I want to make my husband, who betrayed our family, suffer just as much. So, Mom, what do you think? Well, but how? That's what we need to figure out now. After all, we don't know what weaknesses he has. First, we need to thoroughly research to find out what method would be most effective. That's right. Even if we set a trap, if it doesn't cause enough pain, it's a waste. Yeah, I agree. We have to make him regret it to the bone. After all, he made Mom cry. My sons, contemplating what they said, left my side and went into their rooms. Even as I thought about preparing food for them, I couldn't bring myself to move and ended up crawling into bed. No matter how much I try to be strong, the tears just keep flowing. Despite all the pain I'm feeling, where is my husband now, and what is he doing? Maybe he's gone to her. Such thoughts make me suffer even more. If possible, I wish I could go back to just a few hours ago, not knowing any of this, and return to the life of cooking for my husband and gathering around the table with my family, as usual. But that's impossible. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? No matter how much I regret, it's futile and I can't stop the tears. The next day, my sons said they had work and left the house. David never came back. Always making sure his shirts were washed and ironed, the David who didn't return must be wearing crumpled shirts by now. I wonder where he is and what he's doing. Such thoughts come to mind, but there's nothing I can do. After seeing my sons off, all I could do again was crawl back into bed. Unlike me, my sons had begun to take decisive steps towards revenge. Looks like Dad didn't come home last night. Yeah, seems like it. That's why Mom is even more upset. There's no point in getting down about it. can't help it. We just have to do what we can for her. I wonder if Dad's at work? Yeah, I saw him earlier. Working in his crumpled shirt. If he didn't come home, that figures. So, how are we gonna get our revenge? We need to figure out his moves first. Right. By the way, that woman in the photo, that's her, isn't it? One of the sons glanced towards the woman in the photo. Yeah, 90% sure it's her. It's tough to say 100% because it's a photo. What do we do? Follow them on the way back? Sounds good, I'll follow Dad. Then, I'll follow her. Hard to say if they'll meet today though. No, they'll meet. They were caught by Mom yesterday. Or, Dad might have gone to her place last night. Even so, it'd be hard for him to come back home, so he'll likely go to her place. Indeed. That's some deep analysis. You were thinking the same thing, weren't you? Yeah, I was. And so, the sons decided to follow them separately. One after Dad, the other after the woman. However, despite leaving separately, both ended up at the same apartment building. Whoa! Jack! What's up, Sebastian? Looks like this might be her place, huh? Maybe. I couldn't find a name on the mailbox. Maybe it's a room just for their secret meetings? Could Dad have rented it? Should we check with the real estate agency? Yeah, I'll look into something else. Something else? Now that it's clear they're together, we need to tighten the noose. Right, makes sense. I'll leave that to you then. I'll handle this side. While attending university lectures, the two spent a week investigating David and the woman, managing their part-time jobs as well. It seems they found out several things, and on the night before Monday, they shared it with me. Mom, could you come to the office tomorrow? To the office? Yeah, there's something important. I'll show you Dad heading for hell tomorrow. But there's something I need to ask of you, the sons said, and then they shared their plan with me. The next afternoon, just as they had asked, I went to the office, and my sons were waiting for me at the entrance. Mom, we're gonna meet with the president now, but make sure you do what we asked you yesterday. Yes. I'll be fine. The sons exchanged looks and then got on the elevator to head to the top floor. When they arrived at the president's office, there was David's lover, Nevaeh. Just like when I saw her a week ago, her beauty was mesmerizing. The president, though frowning, unsure of what was happening, still carried an air of dignity. What's this about? Jack, Sebastian? Sorry to trouble you. We have something very important to discuss. But we can't proceed without one more actor in our play. Actor? At that moment, the door to the president's office was knocked, and David entered. David. Nevaeh. The two of them calling each other's names in front of the wife. I felt dizzy. What's going on here? It seemed the president was the only one who didn't understand. No, I didn't understand either. What exactly was the relationship between this Nevaeh and the president? First, let me introduce. President, Director Nevaeh. This woman is our mother, Kinsley, the wife of David. Oh, is that so? Mom, this is the president and his daughter, Nevaeh. His daughter? Yes, Nevaeh is the president's daughter and also a director. And she's also Dad's girlfriend. That's correct. What? Sorry. You're involved with my daughter while you have a wife? President, please hold off on the anger. It seems Dad and Nevaeh have been together for 15 years now. They've been living like a couple, spending time together in an apartment they rented after work, then going back to their respective homes. Is that so? Nevaeh, you. I'm sorry. Are you two in love, without a doubt? Yes. I love David. Even after 15 years, I never once thought about breaking up. Is it because you want to marry him? Yes, of course. Nevaeh. David is a married man. Sorry, but I can't stop these feelings. I'd rather be the woman in the shadows, as long as I can be by David's side. Do you want to marry Nevaeh, Dad? Hey, Jack! It's okay, you can tell us your true feelings. That is... David seemed unable to say the truth in this situation. Saying yes would hurt me, and saying no could provoke the president's wrath. Considering his future, he likely couldn't express his true feelings. Do you want to be with Nevaeh, Dad? Or was she just a fling? It was not just a fling. How could anyone be in a relationship for 15 years just for fun? Did you know Nevaeh was the president's daughter when you started dating her? No, it wasn't like that. When I first started dating Nevaeh, she was a radiant 25-year-old young lady. I thought there's no way such a beautiful lady would date a plain guy like me. But I hoped at least she would have dinner with me, and when I asked, she accepted. Then I hoped we could drink together, and she agreed to that too. With each occasion, my feelings grew stronger. And Nevaeh, did you feel the same? Yes. I knew he was married. Even though I knew it was wrong, I couldn't help falling for him. Just having dinner with David was enough for me. But once one wish was fulfilled, I found myself wanting more, like having drinks together. Before I knew it, David had become a significant part of my life, and our relationship deepened. Oh, I'm sorry. Nevaeh apologized for the depth of their relationship. It was after we became involved that she first told me she was the president's daughter. What a thing to do! To steal another woman's husband. Shameful. I'm sorry. But I couldn't stop my feelings. I thought many times that we had to break up, but... So, both of you want to be together? Yes. I'm truly sorry. If I'm just speaking my feelings, then yes. But when I think of his wife, I know it's something we shouldn't wish for. And you, David? David looked at the president and then at me. The president had an indescribable expression on his face. Well, that's to be expected. His daughter is in a romantic relationship with a married man, a company employee. But if his daughter has dedicated 15 years to a man only to be discarded now, that would be truly painful. As for me, I neither showed anger nor smiled broadly. David, Nevaeh is being honest with her feelings. You should respond to that. Yeah, sorry. I do want to be with her. Kinsley, if I can be with David, I'll support his career advancement. I've already been doing everything I can for him, but I'll strive even more for his sake. So, you're asking for my forgiveness? Yes. Yeah, Nevaeh has been really good to me. I even got a recommendation for a director position because of her. There's a director position offer? Yeah, it wasn't confirmed yet, so I hadn't told you, but it's true. I see. Congratulations. So, it's just Mom left. What do you want to do with Dad? Continue together or... Jack looked into my eyes and nodded. It was a signal for now's the time. Nevaeh is such a wonderful lady, and I've already spent 20 years with my husband. He says he's happy with Nevaeh. I saw them together the other day, and he truly looked happy. I can't crush that happiness out of selfishness. Therefore, I'll step aside. I've kept you waiting for a long time, Nevaeh, but please be happy with him from now on. Madam, are you really okay with this? Yes. If I wish for my husband's happiness and Nevaeh's happiness, that's the natural answer. Thank you. I'm sorry for my daughter's outrageous selfishness. If Nevaeh is willing to marry and Dad has the intention to, it's only right for Mom to gracefully step aside. We'll be here for Mom, so there's nothing to worry about. However, in exchange, please pay alimony and cover our college expenses until we graduate. And we'll also ask Nevaeh for compensation. After all, even if it's Dad's fault, the fact remains that a family was broken. Understood. I might not be able to fully compensate, but I'll do what I can. I'll transfer the house to you and the rest of the assets. I don't need them, so do as you please. No, if you're going to let my daughter marry you, I'll also provide a monthly allowance to ensure she can live comfortably. That's really something. Thank you. Mom hasn't worked for a long time, so hearing you say that will definitely help her. So, please don't hold a grudge against my daughter. Yes, of course. I bowed respectfully, never imagining that such an arrangement would be made. David, if you marry her, I promise you the director's position. President. Thank you so much. That's great for you, David. Yeah, thank you, Nevaeh. Thank you, Kinsley. David, promise you'll stay by her side forever. I'm counting on you. Yes, of course. David, Nevaeh, and the president were all thrilled. But this couldn't be the end. It wouldn't serve as revenge or send anyone to hell. The son smirked and moved the conversation to the next phase. So, Dad, you'll also pay off Nevaeh's debts, right? You're becoming a director, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Debts? Yeah, about $200,000, right? Why so much? Well, Nevaeh has undergone gender reassignment surgery. It's not something to bring up now, but you must be well aware of it. Dad, there's no need to be shocked. You love her, after all. What do you mean? Nevaeh was originally a man. She felt a disconnect with her body and underwent gender reassignment surgery. The cost of the surgery and travel expenses led her to take on debt. Additionally, Nevaeh, when she was a man, had a very masculine appearance, so she also underwent cosmetic surgery to achieve her current look. You know a lot about it. Sorry, we had it investigated. All those expenses combined amount to about $200,000. And being a woman, the costs for cosmetics, clothes, bags, and so on. To maintain the image of a president's daughter, you inevitably go for high-end products, right? Yes, that's correct. So, the monthly payments are quite significant. But don't worry. After all, Dad's going to be a director. Right. Nevaeh's original name was Gabriel, you know. Gabriel. Yeah, such a good name, right? They wanted a strong boy so badly. They named him with that hope in mind. Is that so? David seemed completely unaware of this matter and turned pale. Moreover, David has prejudices against gender changes and homosexuality. This must truly feel like being cast into hell. And at this point, there's no way he could say he wants to back out. Well, normally, a parent would cover it, but I just can't understand men becoming women. So, I told him if you really want to do it, you have to find the money yourself. And he actually did it. I never thought he'd take out loans to undergo the surgery. Ah. The president wanted to raise you as a manly man, huh? Yeah, exactly. Things don't always go as planned. When I heard a boy was born, I dreamed of him taking a wife, having grandchildren. I thought Gabriel would become president one day, and the next generation would be led by my grandchildren. Ah, haha. Right. But then, being told she wanted to become a woman, it felt like everything vanished. I thought we had to choose the successor from among the employees, thinking no man would accept a woman who had been a man. I was prepared for her to remain single all her life. Yet, to find someone who'd stay by her side for life, how fortunate. Now I can rest easy. Ah, that's right. Since David is Jack's and Sebastian's father, if Nevaeh marries him, they would be my grandchildren. With their high IQs and capabilities, they could one day sit in the president's chair too. Wow. The company's future is secure. The president was overjoyed. Then Jack presented the divorce papers and asked for my signature. With everything already decided, I signed without hesitation, and the paper was passed to David, who signed it with a trembling hand. Since we can't register the marriage until 1 to 2 weeks after submitting the divorce papers, how about we write the marriage registration now, as it's a joyful occasion? That sounds good. It's best to do it here while everyone's present. Following Jack's suggestion, the president accepted, and Sebastian and I clapped our hands. Forced by the situation, David, with a shaking hand, signed the marriage registration form. "Congratulations," I said to Nevaeh, who responded with a happy smile. "Now, you two are essentially husband and wife. Congratulations! Isn't that wonderful?" However, unable to escape, David was crying alone. "Ah, David, are those tears of joy?" Nevaeh asked, but my sons and I knew better. These weren't tears of joy. That night, when David came back to pack his things, we helped to quickly get him out, but he broke down crying. "No, no! Why do I have to marry a man? Why is she a man?" "Well, you thought she was a woman for 15 years, so it's fine, right? You couldn't tell the difference." "But even if she looks like a woman, she's still a man. I don't want to marry a man." "You're becoming a director, there's no need to complain, right? And you won't find such a beauty among women." "What are you talking about? She's only beautiful because of plastic surgery. Maintaining that will cost a fortune." "You're a director, it's fine. She's a director too, no problem. Thanks to Dad, we're gonna be presidents. It's a win-win." Dad's affair turned out to be a jackpot for us. We don't even have to job hunt. I'm not happy at all. "You might be, but I have to marry a man." "That's the bed you made for yourself." "Maybe, but I can't accept this. Her name was Genta, for crying out loud. Totally a man." "It's cruel to say that. Her heart is female. And her body too. She's a beautiful woman now. My stepmother." "Indeed. Our stepmother, and the president's daughter no less. We hit the jackpot." "No, no. Kinsley, let's start over. Please, I beg you. I'll apologize, just give me another chance." "What about your job?" "I'll quit. Better to quit than to marry a man." "If you quit, the boys won't become presidents. You've been with her for 15 years, you'll be fine. You've managed to deceive us all this time, just deceive yourself from now on." "Deceive myself?" "Yeah. Just convince yourself she's female. Do it for your sons. Trick yourself into it." "No, no, no." Despite his protests, we quickly packed his belongings and kicked him out. Later, a grand wedding took place, and David became Nevaeh's husband. He smiled throughout the ceremony, but he wasn't happy. Yet, he married her and started a new life as a couple. However, David never rose above the director position. Meanwhile, Nevaeh became a board member, showing her prowess. Being busy, she couldn't do the housework, leaving David, who had never done it before, to take over domestic duties. Despite how busy Nevaeh is, one might expect her to lend a helping hand to David, but that was not the case at all. Despite her kindness before, Nevaeh turned into a tyrant, losing all her former gentleness. She seemed more like a beautiful man now. Consequently, I started receiving frequent complaint emails from David. Their content was always, "This is hell. I have to embrace a man at night, and I can't escape. This is pure hell." Receiving such emails, our family would read them together, laughing. I received a substantial alimony and a significant monthly allowance. Moreover, a significant amount of money is deposited into our accounts every month as living expenses. The boys secured jobs at the company and were promised the presidency. My life is secured until the end. Truly, I am the victor. Today's wine tastes exceptionally delicious. "Get out with your kids, you trashy wife." With those words, my mother-in-law throws my belongings at me. I look to David for help, but he just awkwardly avoids my gaze. "How dare you deceive my precious son? I haven't cheated. This child is definitely David's." "Shut up. You're probably cheating with that part-timer named Ryan, aren't you?" At those words, I snap. As if being falsely accused of cheating wasn't irritating enough, now to be suspected of having an affair with Ryan too. I glare at my mother-in-law. What? Let's do a DNA test. Fine by me. At my words, my mother-in-law smirks confidently. Providing evidence of your own infidelity, what a foolish wife. Laughing, my mother-in-law. I swore to prove to her that I've never cheated. 2 weeks later, I checked the results of the test and sent them to my in-laws' house. A few hours after, they must have seen the results. In just a short time, my phone was flooded with dozens of messages from my mother-in-law. What have you done? My name is Luna. A 27-year-old housewife. Everyone, dinner is ready. Thanks as always. My parents have always been gentle, and it was rare to see them argue. My mother, while gentle, always made sure that my father and I could live peacefully. My father, who never forgot to respect and appreciate her for that. Perhaps because of how they raised me, I've rarely gotten angry myself. Sure, there are things I can't compromise on or that irritate me. But getting angry is exhausting, and it often seemed easier to just let things go. Luna, are you not pushing yourself too hard? You always give in to others. My mother would worry about me sometimes, but I believed I had my own convictions. I stood my ground when it mattered and lived at a pace that didn't overwhelm me. That's so like Luna, always doing things at your own pace. My friend Layla often said that. I didn't mind being seen as laid back. After all, I wasn't causing trouble for anyone, so there shouldn't be any problem. And there were people who loved me for being that way. I love how gentle you are, Luna. Those were the words of my husband, David. We met in college. At a matchmaking party a mutual acquaintance had organized. I hate conflict. I like people with a peaceful aura who don't get into fights, like you, Luna. At the matchmaking party, that's what David told me. He didn't really want to attend the mixer, but also didn't want to make his friends uncomfortable by refusing. That's why he ended up going. You really think of your friends, huh? I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Hey, Luna. If you're not seeing anyone right now, I'd like to go out with you. And with that confession from him, we started dating. He accepted that I had my own non-negotiables, and we were able to date without any major arguments or issues. Luna, will you marry me? Yes, I'd love to. After several years of dating, we got married. Thanks for becoming a part of this family. David's too good for me. My in-laws were also gentle people, with a smiling mother-in-law and a kind-looking father-in-law. At that time, I was truly glad to become a part of their family. What? Your father-in-law? Not long after David and I got married, my father-in-law was hospitalized. Apparently, he was involved in a car accident. Fortunately, there was no danger to his life, but he fractured his leg and had to be hospitalized for a while. Well, it's good that it wasn't serious. I'm sorry to make you worry. When David and I went to visit, my father-in-law apologized with a look of regret. Really, hearing about the accident almost took years off my life. My mother-in-law said, her face clouded with worry. Actually, my in-laws run a restaurant. Primarily, my mother-in-law manages the place, with my father-in-law and a few part-timers supporting her. My father-in-law is good at paperwork, while my mother-in-law says, if I look at letters and numbers for too long, my head starts to hurt, indicating her aversion to it. With my father-in-law hospitalized, the person handling all the background tasks was gone. Since some of these tasks involve money, they couldn't just be left to the part-timers. What are we going to do now? I found myself muttering. It's already hard enough that my father-in-law was suddenly hospitalized, putting a mental strain on them. In this condition, managing the restaurant seems impossible. Maybe they'll have to temporarily close. Thinking this, David and I headed home. Luna, can we talk? As we were taking a break at home, David approached me with a look of guilt. I could somewhat guess what he wanted to say. Can you quit your job and help out at the family restaurant? And he pleaded with me like that. David and I work at completely different companies, doing entirely different jobs.
Hey, David. You know how much I value my current job, right?
David avoids my gaze at my question. I work at a company founded by Layla. I've been doing my dream job in design there, and I'm incredibly passionate about my work. I've talked about this to David multiple times, and he has always supported me.
I understand that. But I was hoping you could help out at the family business until Dad gets back.
At his words, I hesitated. So, I asked David for some time to think it over, leaving the matter unresolved for the moment. Indeed, running the restaurant would be difficult under these circumstances. But honestly, if it's that concerning, David could help out.
Well, that's probably impossible.
David, like his mother, isn't good at paperwork. Considering he doesn't do household chores either, it's likely he can't cook. David trying to help out at the store would just be a hindrance.
When you think about it, I'm the only option.
With that thought, I decided to consult Layla.
I get it, your in-laws are having a tough time, and it's hard to say no given your position as their daughter-in-law. That's right. Plus, I have a good relationship with my in-laws and want to help them. That's why I have a favor to ask you, Layla.
Layla gladly agreed to my request. Thanks to that, I was able to decide to help out at my in-laws' store.
David, about the store, I'll help out.
Really?
Thank you.
David was thrilled with my decision, and when he told his mother, she was grateful too. If they're that grateful, I'll do my best. Just when I thought that, my mother-in-law's attitude changed dramatically once I started helping. Now that you're here, you'll have to prove yourself useful. The plan was for my mother-in-law to cook, the part-timers to handle the front, and for me, who was unfamiliar with everything, to work behind the scenes. However, my mother-in-law started ordering me around. Take orders quickly, if you have time to stand around, clean, tidy up and wash the dishes. It escalated from there, and eventually, she even had me doing simple cooking tasks. Without allowing for breaks, as soon as I tried to sit, she'd say, "You're a daughter-in-law, don't slack off."
Mrs. Luna, I'll take care of this, please take a break.
That supportive voice belonged to Ryan, a college student and the part-time leader. He was observant and subtly supported me. But being unaccustomed as I was, I ended up exhausted from being overworked every day.
I'm going to collapse at this rate. Just bear with it until Dad comes back. If we can get through this, we'll manage somehow.
David would say with a troubled laugh whenever I told him about how I was being treated. David wouldn't even listen to my complaints.
Maybe I made the wrong choice.
At first, I thought David was a peace-loving and kind person. But in reality, he preferred to avoid trouble and wouldn't get involved in any. Because he's that kind of person, he wouldn't even try to mediate between my mother-in-law and me. Seeing this side of him, I sighed.
I need to rest soon.
I was told to come in early again the next day by my mother-in-law. I gave up talking to David and decided to rest in my room.
Don't dawdle, get to work quickly.
I was helping out at the store from morning, but feeling nauseous, I crouched down.
Ugh, I feel sick. Mrs. Luna? You look pale, are you okay?
Ryan, noticing me, offered to take me to the hospital.
Thank you, Ryan. It's okay. My sister Layla always takes care of me, so it's the least I can do.
Ryan smiled brightly at my words. Ryan is Layla's brother. I was surprised to find him working at my in-laws' store. We were both surprised when we saw each other there.
But if you hadn't been here, I wouldn't have made it to the hospital.
When I tried to go to the hospital, my mother-in-law complained and tried to stop me. Ryan stood up to her, saying, "Are you planning to make a sick person work?" And thanks to him, I was able to get to the hospital.
Congratulations. Eh?
And upon examination, it was discovered that I was pregnant. It seems I was feeling unwell due to morning sickness. I immediately contacted David.
What? Pregnant? Is that true? Pregnant? Luna's pregnant?
Despite it being David's phone, I could somehow hear his parents' voices.
Why can I hear your parents?
When I asked, David explained the situation with a bit of trouble. Apparently, after my mother-in-law thought I had run away, she contacted David to complain, and they ended up going together to my father-in-law to vent.
Well, until just a moment ago, my dad was actually lecturing her, saying she's working out of kindness. What are you complaining about?
Really? My father-in-law had scolded my mother-in-law, saying, Luna quit her job out of goodwill to help, and don't make her work when she's not feeling well. Hearing that made me feel somewhat relieved. My father-in-law was on my side. That alone was comforting.
Luna, congratulations on your pregnancy.
Then, the phone was handed to my father-in-law.
My wife was wrong. I've told her to pay you a more generous salary as compensation.
At those words, I was taken aback. That's right, I hadn't received any salary. Until now, I hadn't had the luxury to worry about such things and had completely forgotten about my salary.
Luna? You haven't received your salary, have you?
My silence must have given me away. My father-in-law asked, his voice containing anger.
Well, I've been collecting it for her.
David hurriedly answered to his father's question.
Why are you collecting it? It's Luna's salary for her work. It should naturally go to her.
My father-in-law's voice was low and cold. My mother-in-law responded.
But Luna is a wife, so it should go to her husband, David. Enough. She's someone's precious daughter from another family. What are you thinking?
My father-in-law scolded. I was told later that although my father-in-law is usually mild-mannered, he becomes terrifying when someone steps out of line in terms of common sense or manners. My mother-in-law, who usually acted sweetly and amiably, was afraid of him. However, with my father-in-law hospitalized, her usual restraint was gone, leading to her recent outburst.
You've married into quite the family, haven't you?
Ryan, who had been silently listening next to me, said with a wry smile. I returned the smile with a wry one of my own.
I'm sorry for everything.
Later, David came to apologize to me. He must have been scolded by his father to protect his wife. David promised that he would truly protect me from now on.
All right. I'll forgive you this time, but in return, make sure you really protect me.
I still have feelings for David, and I don't want to deprive my child of their father. So, I decided to wait and see how things would go.
Sorry for the sudden notice. I'll be in your care from today.
It's all right, you've had a tough time. Take it easy here. Not long after, I decided to go back to my parents' house for a prenatal visit. I came home early, wary of my mother-in-law's presence.
Being pregnant isn't an illness, and you're not in your final month, so you can work as usual.
My mother-in-law contacted me after I returned from the hospital. Apparently, she hadn't learned her lesson even after being scolded by my father-in-law. I told David about it, but all he said was, I understand. I'll talk to Mom, and nothing was done. Therefore, I used my morning sickness as an excuse to take refuge at my parents' house early. I also told my caring father-in-law about it.
My family is to blame. Luna, your decision isn't wrong,
he said, accepting my decision. My parents also warmly welcomed me, so I've been able to stay at my parents' house with peace of mind.
Well, if Luna has decided, I won't oppose it. Just make sure to give birth to a healthy child.
Even David was surprised by my early return but saw me off with those words. The only one who opposed until the end was my mother-in-law.
To think you're going back to your parents' house for your birth so early.
She complained about it. However, since she had been glared at by my father-in-law the other day, she couldn't stop me.
The store will manage by splitting the work among the part-timers.
That's right. You just focus on the baby, Ryan and Layla said, so I focused solely on my baby. This might have been the most peaceful and happiest time for me. Indeed, the morning sickness was tough, but my love for the growing baby in my belly only increased. And a few months later, I gave birth to my adorable son, Asher. Thank you for being born, Asher. I simply adore Asher. My parents are smitten with him, and Layla and Ryan were thrilled too. However, David seemed to be different.
David, haven't seen you once. Are you that busy with work?
Yeah, it seems like it. He didn't visit me while I was at my parents' house. Not even after the birth.
Hey, David. Why aren't you showing your face?
Thinking he might not be realizing his responsibilities as a father, I contacted David.
I'm really sorry, work has been so busy,
was his reply. I sighed at his response. What is he doing? I'll have to confront him when I get back home. With that determination, I returned home with Asher after some time.
Welcome back, Luna. And I've missed you, Asher.
David greeted us with a smile, lovingly looking at Asher. Seeing this, I felt a bit of remorse. He truly loved Asher.
I've managed to free up some time from work, so I'll be more actively involved from now on.
With those words, we were able to live peacefully for a while. However, Asher developed a sudden rash and we had to seek medical care.
Is that really true? Yes, there's no mistake. Asher's blood type is A.
During the visit, we also had Asher's blood type checked, which turned out to be A. Both David and I are type O. So, we were shocked, having assumed Asher would also be O. Of course, I haven't cheated. My only romantic experience has been with David.
Did you go to the hospital today? How was it? The rash is getting better, but... What? Is there something else?
David tilted his head, puzzled by my demeanor. I told him about Asher's blood type. He widened his eyes in surprise.
I didn't know that could happen.
That was all David said at the time. I was relieved because he didn't seem to suspect me.
I heard a little bit.
The next day, that's what my mother-in-law exclaimed as she barged in. Apparently, David, after hearing from me, immediately reported to his mother. She, having heard the story, suspected I had cheated and came storming in.
Having a child with your lover. You shameless wife. I haven't cheated. David is the only one for me.
I retorted while glaring at David, who had let her in and now looked uneasy behind his mother. David was fidgeting behind his mother. Amidst this, Asher, startled by his grandmother's shouting, began to cry.
Quiet. Stop it, please.
I instinctively picked up Asher to protect him from my mother-in-law's advance. She glared at me, gripping my belongings.
Take your child and get out, you shameless wife.
She screamed, throwing my things at me. I looked at David for help, but he just awkwardly looked away.
How dare you deceive my precious son? I haven't cheated. Asher is definitely David's child. Shut up. You're probably cheating with that part-timer Ryan, aren't you?
At those words, I snapped. Already irritated by the baseless accusations of infidelity, now to be suspected of something with Ryan too. I glared fiercely at my mother-in-law.
What? Let's have a DNA test.
Fine by me. At my words, my mother-in-law smirks confidently.
Providing evidence of your own infidelity, what a foolish wife.
She laughs. I vowed to prove to her that I had absolutely not cheated. After returning to my parents' house, I explained the situation to them.
How could she berate you like that? We believe in you, Luna.
My parents believed in me. And even offered to cover the costs of the DNA test.
Oh. What's wrong?
At that moment, I received a message from someone. This person had heard about the situation and offered their support.
Having that person's support would be really reassuring. I'll definitely prove them wrong.
My anger towards my mother-in-law became my driving force.
I'll make her regret this.
2 weeks later, I checked the DNA test results and sent them to my in-laws' house.
I wonder how they'll react.
Muttering to myself, I went to Asher. A few hours later, after they must have seen the results, my phone was flooded with dozens of messages from my mother-in-law.
What have you done?
Picking up the phone call that came just then, I was met with her yelling.
I just proved what you wanted. Don't joke with me, you worthless wife.
And then she proceeded to hurl insults at me. This was getting nowhere. Deciding this, I left Asher with my parents and headed to confront my in-laws.
I'm coming too. I can't forgive anyone who hurts my best friend. I'll go as well.
Layla and Ryan, who had joined us along the way, were already informed and had agreed to come with me. As a result, the three of us headed to my in-laws' house.
We're coming in. How dare you show your face here? Welcome, Luna.
At the in-laws, there was my mother-in-law, fuming with anger, my father-in-law, welcoming me with a smile, and David, cowering in a corner.
What are you angry about? I just proved my innocence. This is wrong. You must have tampered with it.
My mother-in-law lamented, holding the DNA results in her hand. There, clearly written, was that Asher was indeed David's son.
And you're still not satisfied after seeing that? How could this be possible? First of all, I've been slaving away for you. I didn't even have the time to cheat, you know?
In reality, my days were spent being called out early by my mother-in-law and only getting back around the time David returned home. Even during work, I was constantly under my mother-in-law's watchful eye, leaving no room for infidelity.
Even I, who was suspected of being the lover, was too busy with work and studies to meet outside the store. If anything, when I'm not at the store, I'm often with friends or family. You can check if you like.
Ryan confidently stated. Faced with his assertion, my mother-in-law fell silent. Then, Ryan's gaze shifted to David, who was silently observing.
Why are you staying quiet, David? Eh? First of all, it was you who asked Luna to work at the store, right? Yet, you ignore your wife being overworked and don't help her. Instead, you report to your mother to have her scold Luna in your place. That's pretty cowardly of you.
David, faced with these cold words, averted his eyes, mumbling, "That's not true." This was the perfect opportunity to air my grievances.
You don't lift a finger to help around the house even though I come home exhausted every day.
While I'm preparing meals, he lazes around on the couch, never does any cleaning or laundry, yet complains about dirt and piled up laundry. When I retort with, "If you notice, why don't you do it?" he always escapes to the bedroom, saying, "I have to get up early tomorrow." Moreover, whenever I tried to talk to him about his mother, he would only offer lip service and never actually do anything.
Just as Ryan said, you knew your mother would get angry about Asher, so you reported it, didn't you? You really are a coward. Because...
David looked away, searching for an excuse. This man is not kind. He's just a man who wants to avoid trouble.
There's no excuse. I agreed to help at the store because you asked me to. But between the salary issue and now this, I'm completely fed up with you. I'm really sorry.
Finally, David apologized, looking flustered.
I was just confused because Asher has a different blood type. About that blood type issue, there's someone else here to explain.
David and my mother-in-law puzzledly responded with to my statement. Responding to them was,
I'll explain about that.
It was my father-in-law, who had been watching the situation unfold with a smile until now. His voice was frighteningly low. Sensing something, my mother-in-law turned pale.
What's wrong, Mom?
David was confused by his mother's reaction. Ignoring the two, my father-in-law pulled out a piece of paper.
Is that a DNA test? Whose is it? Mine and yours.
Indeed, that paper was between David and his father, stating that their parent-child relationship was denied. Seeing it, David was speechless.
I'm not Dad's son.
David was actually the child of my mother-in-law's lover, not my father-in-law. The lover was type A, and David was also type A. My mother-in-law's refusal to accept Asher's DNA results and her outrage were likely attempts to cover up her own infidelity.
That's not true, right?
David had assumed he was type O because both his parents were unaware of the truth.
Well, I've always had my suspicions. Eh?
He had noticed my mother-in-law's infidelity long ago and had doubted whether David was truly his child.
But at that time, David was 10 years old, and I had already developed a bond with him from raising him. So, I thought there was no need to uncover the truth and didn't investigate further.
However, after hearing about my situation, my father-in-law became angry and decided to reveal the truth. He contacted me, saying, "I'll handle the investigation instead, so please include our tests as well."
Investigation? About what you've been using Luna's salary for?
At those words, David turned pale.
Pushing the store and household chores onto Luna while you indulge in affairs. It seems like father and son are alike in this respect, my father-in-law remarked.
Indeed, David had been having affairs and spending my salary on his lovers. It turned out his lovers didn't know he was married. In other words, he had deceived both me and his lovers.
You'll pay for this,
I told him, and David slumped down.
You two will pay for your affairs. And we're getting a divorce. I'll also quit my job,
Ryan added, following my father-in-law. Ryan then declared his decision to quit as well, as if adding to the statement. Why? My mother-in-law's face asked.
If Luna and her husband are getting a divorce, the store won't survive. You only cook and don't do any of the administrative work like accounting.
Even that cooking had lately been left to me and the staff. The regulars had noticed this, saying they came to support Luna, who works hard in her husband's place. Without me, the foot traffic had already started to dwindle. If neither Luna nor the father-in-law return to the store, the remaining regulars will leave too.
The store, supported by the regulars and Luna, will surely collapse. Everyone senses this and is quitting one after another. No way,
Ryan said, causing my mother-in-law to panic. That store was originally managed by my mother-in-law's family for generations.
I can't let it end with me. Hey, we're not getting divorced, right? It'll be hard to find a job while taking care of a child, even with support from the family.
David, realizing the situation, pleaded with me. Then, Layla stepped forward.
Unfortunately for you, she's my capable subordinate. I'll take full responsibility for employing her.
I had consulted with Layla before quitting, and she had arranged for me to return to the company anytime. So, re-employment was not an issue.
I won't forgive anyone who hurts my best friend,
Layla said with a smile to David. Following that, David and I successfully divorced. David kept pleading, "I don't want to divorce, I want to be with Luna and Asher," but Layla's husband, a lawyer, played a crucial role.
I told him to squeeze everything out of your husband.
True to Layla's word, David paid a substantial amount in alimony and child support, which I received in a lump sum, allowing me to live comfortably for a while. My father-in-law also opted for a divorce without demanding alimony, in exchange for no division of assets.
Are you sure you're okay with not demanding alimony? Yes, it's fine. I have enough savings, and either way, she's finished.
Originally, my in-laws ran the same store but kept their finances strictly separate. Thanks to this, my father-in-law had been able to save money, while my mother-in-law had squandered hers, leaving her with no savings. All that remained for her was the store.
That store will collapse soon. Once that happens, she'll have no one but David to rely on,
my father-in-law said. And that became a reality. Sometime later, while having tea with Layla, the topic came up.
What happened to David and the others? Oh, I got a message from them.
I went on to tell about what happened next. The store could no longer manage without us, leading to its quick demise. The remaining regulars left. And soon after, the store was buried in debt. Eventually, my mother-in-law had to sell the store and the land to pay off her debts and, with nothing left, ran to David.
But David seems to be having a hard time too.
Turns out, one of David's mistresses was a newcomer at a company his company dealt with. The newcomer, feeling deceived, cried and complained to everyone, quickly spreading the story. The story reached David's company, and he was indirectly asked to resign.
With the money from selling their house, David had to pay off the debt he incurred to cover the alimony and child support and moved to a cheap apartment. He was living day to day on part-time jobs when his mother showed up, making life even harder for him. And he reached out to you for help? After betraying you first, as if you would help him.
Exactly.
I blocked him immediately.
He had sent a long message detailing his situation, but I didn't respond and blocked him instead. Thankfully, I've been living peacefully since. Meanwhile, I've been raising Asher smoothly with my parents' help. With my stay-at-home mom actively taking care of him, I can raise my child with peace of mind.
It's good to see you happy. Let's talk about the future then.
We were having tea today to discuss future plans. With Asher still requiring a lot of care, I plan to start working from home once he grows a bit more.
I'm so glad you're back, Luna. Your designs are popular, and there's something special about them that only you can create.
Layla complimented me. Feeling appreciated like this motivated me to work hard once I return. A few years later, around the time I began to return to work.
Hello. How are Asher and you today? Hello. He's been energetic since the morning.
Ryan stopped by the workplace. He's always been considerate and fond of Asher. Now a university graduate, Ryan works diligently in sales at the same company as Layla and me.
Luna, I've liked you for a long time. Will you go out with me?
Ryan proposed, leaving me speechless. Facing my stunned silence, he looked at me earnestly.
I'll make sure both you and Asher are happy.
Ryan said that to me. However, I'm 5 years older than him. Because of that, I couldn't immediately respond and decided to put off answering. Then, soon after that.
Luna. Eh? David?
David appeared before me. Surprised by the sudden encounter, I couldn't flee immediately, and David approached me with a smile.
I've been looking for you. Hey, let's get back together. I can't stand it anymore. I refuse. Who would get back with you?
I immediately rejected David's words.
You too? You're mocking me too.
Then, suddenly angry, David raised his fist towards me. That's when it happened.
What are you doing?
Ryan intervened, pulling me close and glaring at David.
Enough already. Luna doesn't need you anymore. Shut up. What do you know about Luna? Hey, Luna, you still need me, right? No, I don't need you. I already have him.
At my words, David looked hurt.
What's that supposed to mean? In the end, you betrayed me and had an affair with him.
Ryan and I both showed a look of disbelief at his words. We had said at the time that neither of us had the time to engage in affairs.
Unlike you, I haven't cheated. He and I aren't even officially dating yet. Lies. It's not a lie. Indeed, he confessed to me recently, but I haven't given him an answer yet.
Though, my feelings are pretty much decided. Thinking this, I held Ryan's hand that was embracing me. Then, Ryan widened his eyes and then smiled happily.
You have no place here anymore. Or would you prefer I call the police?
At my words, David left, cursing. Apparently, he didn't want the police involved.
About what you said just now. I'll be happy with you and Asher, right?
At my words, Ryan nodded with a smile. And that's when we started dating. Later, I asked Layla's husband to issue a restraining order against David. It seems he had finally snapped at his mother for squandering his earnings and pressuring their lives and kicked her out. Feeling lonely afterward, he sought us out. The ousted mother wandered without a destination and eventually went missing.
It doesn't matter anymore. Because now, I am happy. Luna, it's about time. Yes, I'm coming.
Today is Asher's entrance ceremony. Asher adores Ryan as his dad. Ryan is fully committed to responding to such Asher. To anyone looking, they were a happy family. I'm truly glad to have become a family with the two of them. With that thought, I headed towards them with a smile.
Huh? I don't get it.
When I went to a city I usually don't visit for shopping, I witnessed my husband and my mother, arm in arm, walking affectionately and kissing each other without a care for who saw them. Shocked, I ran up to them and confronted them, but far from being ashamed, they brazenly justified themselves. I immediately went to my parents' house, told my father about the two, and got a divorce, but after my father passed away, I had to meet my mother and ex-husband again. When I saw my mother for the first time in a while, she was wearing loose clothes, and her belly was obviously swollen. Noticing my gaze, she smiled as if she had won a victory. "Oh, did you notice? I have a baby in my belly. It seems you couldn't have one no matter how long you waited. Unlike you, I was able to have a child quickly. Now I can finally become a father. It was good that I divorced you." The two of them hurled insults at me, aiming to hurt me as much as possible. However, their malice missed the mark. Unfortunately for them, I wasn't damaged at all. "Oh, this is funny, both of you look so foolish." I laughed, holding my stomach. "My name is Maria, and I'm a 24-year-old office worker. My parents had me at a very young age. It was what you'd call a shotgun wedding. Both of my parents were quite flamboyant in their youth. My mother, Anna, was only 16 and still in high school when she met my father, Ken, who was 4 years her senior and working in construction. She got pregnant with me soon after. Their love story began when my mother fell in love with my father at first sight and aggressively pursued him until he gave in and they started dating. Soon after, she got pregnant with me, leading to their marriage. Getting married in high school was frowned upon, and they faced strong opposition from those around them. However, as I was already on the way, they had no choice but to accept it. The marriage of the young couple seemed to be going well at first. When I was in kindergarten, my father would often pick me up from school on days when his work was rained out. "Maria's dad is so young and cool. Right? I love my dad, he's so kind." I enjoyed sharing my day with my dad as we walked home under a shared umbrella. However, an incident struck my father, drastically changing my mother's attitude towards him. My father fell and sustained serious injuries while dismantling scaffolding at work. Once his body became impaired with bruises and complex fractures, my mother's attitude turned cold as ice. Luckily, he survived, but with lasting physical disabilities that made it impossible for him to continue working in construction. Thanks to rehabilitation, he was able to walk again and, through a friend, found a new job at a company. However, he needed long-term treatment. Despite this, my mother refused to have anything to do with his hospital visits or daily care. Even when he fell in the corridor at home and couldn't move, she deliberately ignored him and would throw snide remarks his way. Pretending to fall like that. Pathetic. Marrying such a burden was a mistake. I should have looked around more before settling down. As a child, my mother's constant complaints about my father seemed like bullying to me. And I honestly didn't like her very much. With my father unable to work as much due to his hospital visits, we were far from a wealthy family. My mother worked night shifts, so I spent more time with my father during the day and was closer to him. Whether my mother noticed this or was never fond of children to begin with, she mostly neglected me, providing only the bare minimum care. I was able to graduate high school, but afterward, my mother told me I had to work to help support the family instead of going to college, so I got a job at a small local company. "I'm sorry, Maria. It's my fault you have to bear this burden because of my condition." "Don't say that. If I can help you even a little, I'm happy to work." Though I hated to live as my mother wished, I worked hard for my father's sake. After a few years of employment and getting used to the job, I married my colleague, John. I wanted to build a warm family with him, unlike my cold parents. "I'll take good care of you, Maria. Let's be happy together. I want to have lots of kids." I happily accepted his proposal with those words. However, a year into our marriage, there was no sign of us having children. I wanted children, but no matter how long we waited, there were no signs of pregnancy. Seeing my downtrodden state, John put pressure on me as if it was all my fault.
Why can't we have kids? Everyone else from my friends already have children. It must be your body that's the problem. What a letdown of a wife. Don't say that. It's not just my issue. I want you to come with me to the gynecologist and get checked too.
Huh? Why do I have to go through such a hassle?
I've been healthy my whole life, never even caught a cold. It's definitely your fault we can't have kids.
Even when I suggested infertility treatment, my husband wouldn't listen at all. Instead, he blamed me for our inability to conceive.
Stop making excuses and get treated at a hospital already. Not having kids after getting married is crushing my reputation.
He wouldn't hear a word I said, just kept blaming me one-sidedly. Still, clinging to a sliver of hope, I continued trying to conceive alone, but there was no sign of a child coming our way. And then, John started coming home less and less. He said he was busy with work, but his late returns became more frequent. Could it really be work? Or could he be cheating? There were several reasons I doubted my husband. There were times when I could smell women's perfume on his clothes after he returned late. And not just once, but several times. Moreover, when I checked the credit card statements, there were regularly unexplained expenses, which fueled my suspicions even further. However, I thought confronting him directly would just lead to evasive answers, so I was looking for the right moment to talk, and that moment came sooner than expected. It happened when I went shopping in a city I usually don't go to. I spotted my husband, who had said he'd be working that day. Is that John? But he was supposed to be at work today. I was about to call out to him when I noticed a woman walking beside him. Why are Mom and John walking together? There was my mother, smiling and walking next to him. Since getting married, I have distanced myself from my mother. I visited my father at home from time to time, but I hardly ever brought my husband to my parents' house. There shouldn't have been any conversation between my husband and my mother after our marriage beyond formal greetings. Curious, I watched them from a distance without calling out, and to my shock, they started holding hands and then kissed right in front of me, not caring who saw them.
Huh? I don't get it.
I couldn't help but exclaim. Unaware of my shock, they just kept walking away. I finally shouted out loud.
Hey, John! Mom! What are you doing?
Unable to bear it any longer, I chased after them and called out, causing both to show surprised faces upon seeing me.
Oh, what's the matter, Maria?
Why such a hurry?
It's not about why I'm here. What are you two doing?
What do you mean?
I just happened to meet John here, and we were just saying hi since it's been a while.
Is there a problem? It seemed like my mother was pretending to be clueless. Meeting my mother after a long time, she looked young, barely in her 40s if you didn't know her. Getting closer to my mother, I realized something. This smell. I've smelled it before. It was the perfume scent coming from my youthfully dressed mother. The same scent I had noticed on my husband's clothes when he came home late. I didn't want to believe it, but I was convinced my mother was my husband's affair partner.
Don't lie, I just saw you, Mom, and John kissing.
What?
That must be some misunderstanding.
We just bumped into each other, that's all. When I confronted them, both seemed momentarily flustered and exchanged glances, but after a short silence, John gave in and spoke.
I didn't think we'd get caught this quickly.
Why are you even here?
What do you mean? I thought we could keep it under wraps a little longer since you're so oblivious, but to think you'd see us. Well, it's exactly as you're imagining. I actually prefer older women.
I'm sorry, Maria.
I did feel bad, but from the first time I met him, John was just my type.
My mother and husband brazenly admitted to unbelievable things.
We just happened to meet by chance before, went for a cup of coffee, and, well, things developed from there. I'm still young at heart, and I want to experience love. Our marriage was already rocky, but the more I talked to Anna, the more I found myself drawn to her.
Oh, I heard about that, Maria.
You've been having a hard time having kids, right? John really wanted a boy. It's such a pity it's because of you. Can't believe you told her that. Well, it's true. It's probably because of your body that we can't have kids.
Incredibly, John had shared all the intimate details of their marriage with my mother. Despite me struggling alone with infertility and John not being supportive, he acted as if he was the victim, blaming everything on me. Fury bubbled up inside and I realized I could never continue being married to him.
This is the worst. Do you even realize what you're doing?
I yelled at them as they made lame excuses. It's inevitable.
You're no good as a wife or a woman, so it's come to this. What? I wouldn't want a husband like you even if you begged. I'm done with you. Let's get a divorce.
Fine by me.
Honestly, I've been tired of you for a long time. You're just a defective product since you always make excuses and can't even have kids. I feel refreshed thinking about getting rid of you. Oh, I didn't intend for it to happen this way, but it seems I've taken Maria's precious husband.
Sorry about that. My mother offered a hollow apology, clearly not feeling guilty. If I tell Dad about this affair, you realize you'll be divorced, right? Be prepared for that, I warned my mother, whose face momentarily faltered before regaining composure.
You have no proof of any affair. You and John divorcing is your business, but I'll divorce when I feel like it.
Now, let's go, John. My mother said dismissively, urging John to leave with her. Despite their clear affair, my mother did not want to divorce her husband immediately, unlike John. I went straight to my father's house to inform him about my mother and John.
So, even after all these years of tolerating her because I thought Maria needed a mother, she dares to treat her daughter this way.
My father said with a grim expression upon hearing the news.
John and I are getting a divorce. I can't stay married after what he's done. What will you do about Mom? Don't worry, I have a plan. I won't let them have their way.
Soon after, John unilaterally sent the filled-out divorce papers, and I signed them, finalizing our divorce. My mother had not returned home since then, apparently eloping with John. Though upset, I decided to forget about John and my mother as my father suggested. After moving out of the place she shared with John, I returned to my father's house, who was now much more capable of taking care of himself, ironically thanks to my mother's neglect.
I'm glad we can live together again, despite everything. Thank you for coming back.
My father expressed his happiness amidst the unfortunate circumstances. Their peaceful life was short-lived, however, as my father suddenly fell ill with a prevalent pneumonia and was on the brink of death.
Maria, I'm sorry for all the hardships. Live your life the way you want from now on,
he said, holding me hand in his final moments. I nodded through my tears. And soon after, my father passed away. If only I had been a better daughter. I lamented while preparing for his funeral when unexpectedly, my mother and John visited.
We heard he died. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Mom was accompanied by my ex-husband, John. She remarked nonchalantly as they barged in.
What do you want now? Go away. What do you mean, what do I want? I'm his wife, it's natural for me to be here after my husband's death. Unbelievable. You run off and then show up like this. Yeah, say whatever you want. But no matter how much you scream, I'm still his wife, which means I have a right to his estate. He had insurance, didn't he? So, that's why you never divorced Dad.
My mother, having diligently supported her husband even after his career changed due to injury, believed she was entitled to a share of his assets. Dad had many subordinates who admired him for his caring nature. There was value in not divorcing after all. Now, let's talk about dividing the estate. I know he saved a lot because he never wanted much, my mother approached me with entitlement. Observing my mother in her loose clothing, I suddenly noticed something. Her belly was clearly swollen beneath her relaxed fit clothes. When she caught my gaze, she smirked triumphantly.
Oh, you noticed?
Yes,
there's a child in my belly. Seems like you waited forever without success, but I'll be giving birth in your place. Unlike you, we managed to conceive a child quickly. Now I can finally become a father. I'm really glad I left you."
They showered me with hurtful words, aiming to wound me as much as possible. However, their scheme backfired. Unfortunately for them, I wasn't hurt in the slightest.
"Oh, this is hilarious. Both of you look so foolish."
I laughed, clutching my stomach. They stared at me, dumbfounded.
"What's so funny?" "It's just ridiculous. By the way, it's hard to say, but are you sure that child is really John's?"
John responded with a huh, looking offended, but my mother's demeanor suddenly shifted. Her eyes darted around, clearly flustered. Though John seemed oblivious.
"It's obviously my child. Don't say such baseless things out of spite." "Yes, please don't be sour just because you lost." "Whether it's sour grapes or not, this will clarify,"
I said as I stepped away to retrieve a document I had kept, presenting it to them.
"What's this all of a sudden? What's so shocking about it? It can't be that." "Huh? What does this mean?"
They were stunned by the contents of the document. A detective agency's report on my mother's social interactions. After my mother eloped with John, I happened to see her in the city with a young man I didn't recognize instead of John. Following them discreetly, they entered a hotel. What's happening? Could it be that Mom is? I decided to consult with my father before he passed and opted to investigate my mother's behavior, thinking it might be useful someday. The investigation confirmed that my mother was indeed deeply involved with a man who wasn't John. Reading the report in disbelief, John saw detailed information about my mother and her other man. After finishing, he glared at my mother.
"What's the meaning of this report? Were you deceiving me? That's impossible. Maria is lying. The child in my belly is definitely yours."
My mother protested, still claiming the child was John's despite being visibly rattled.
"Who are you going to believe, this child or me?" "Well, that's just because you couldn't have children, doesn't mean you can frame your own mother as a villain."
John was swayed by my mother, regaining his composure. And they both began to accuse me of lying.
"It's your prerogative not to believe, but, unfortunately, there's conclusive evidence.
You can come out now." I called to someone in the next room. And a door opened, allowing a man to enter.
"Who's that?"
"Who?"
"I don't know him either."
Both were puzzled by the stranger's appearance, not recognizing him.
"This is my husband. It's natural you wouldn't know him since you two are strangers to him. After divorcing John, I remarried a year later through a friend.
His name is Tim. A year after divorcing John, I remarried him I met through a friend."
"And how does this man prove anything?" "Unlike my mother, it's not obvious from my appearance yet, but I'm also pregnant, with his child, of course." "So what? Spit it out clearly." "Don't you get it? I couldn't conceive no matter how hard we tried when I was with you, but after marrying him, let's call him Takashi, I got pregnant right away."
John's realization dawned as he grasped the implication of my words.
"You refused to go to the hospital because it was too much trouble, but I went for tests and knew I had no fertility issues."
"Meaning, the problem was with you."
"No, that can't be. It's a lie."
"But isn't it strange? Supposedly having difficulty conceiving, but she is pregnant. Are you sure it's really your child?" I questioned, leaving John speechless and glaring at my mother.
"Hey, tell me the truth."
"Fine, you got me."
"Oh, you gave up quite easily. I thought you'd try to deceive us longer." "It was just a fling with John." "What do you mean?" "It was exciting because he was Maria's husband. You know how it is, wanting what belongs to someone else. But my real lover was someone else. I planned to break up with John eventually."
Shocked by my mother's confession, John stood dumbfounded.
"I wanted to enjoy my affairs until I got caught." "Well, it doesn't matter. Whether or not the child is his, my right to the estate remains unchanged."
"You're still on about that?"
"Sorry, but you'll have to give that up. What? How many times do I have to say it? I never divorced my dead husband. I have a right to the inheritance. That's what I'm telling you. You don't have any rights because you and Dad had been divorced a long time ago. What? That can't be. Mom, you might have forgotten because of your age, but Dad had the divorce papers you filled out.
When I reported Mom's affair to Dad, what he pulled out was a divorce decree. According to Dad, after he became unable to work due to an injury, they had a huge fight. Mom told him, "I don't need a husband who can't even move," and handed him the filled-out divorce papers. Though he kept them without filing because of me, Dad had actually used those papers to divorce her before he passed away.
So, Mom, you won't get a penny of Dad's estate. Do you understand now? That's impossible.
Seeing her previously confident face turn pale, John still glared at her.
I'm leaving.
Realizing her affair was exposed and she wouldn't get any inheritance, Mom fled the house as if escaping. Later, Mom did give birth to a boy, but without needing a DNA test, it was clear from the blood type that John wasn't the father. John, realizing he'd been duped and wouldn't get any inheritance, denounced her as such a whore and disappeared. And the man Mom really wanted, her affair partner, apparently only saw her as a fling and ran away once he learned about the pregnancy. In the end, Mom, at 40, became a single mother with a young child. Without anyone to rely on, she's raising the child on government assistance. The childcare is physically demanding, especially since it was a late pregnancy, and she's aged significantly. Once, I saw Mom from a distance with the child. Her appearance, now with more gray hair, was more like a grandmother's than a mother's. Meanwhile, I gave birth to a healthy girl, and now we're a happy family of 3. Thinking about it, Mom's child is my half-brother, and he and my daughter are age mates, which is quite complicated. On Dad's death anniversary, we plan to visit his grave together. The betrayal by my ex-husband and Mom was tough, but it also led me to gain an irreplaceable family. From heaven, Dad must be watching over us too. Happy about his grandchild's birth. With the love Dad gave us, we vow to continue walking together as a close-knit family. Pretending to go on a business trip due to suspicions of my husband's infidelity, I left the house open only to find him in bed with his mistress in our bedroom. After completely sealing the door shut, I invited the relatives over to show off our new house, and well. My name is Kate, I'm 35 years old. I worked as an interior coordinator. Having been married for 5 years, I met my husband Tom through work. Initially, we would only meet occasionally for work, but Tom always brightened up the surroundings and was kind to everyone. I was drawn to his personality, and gradually, we became closer, realizing our values aligned perfectly, leading us to marriage. Tom, of course, and his parents were extremely kind, rejoicing in our marriage from the bottom of their hearts and treating me like their own daughter ever since. Having barely met his parents before our marriage, I was a bit anxious, but they turned out to be warm and welcoming people, which put my mind at ease. We thought it was important to live near such warm in-laws, to support each other in times of need, and so we decided to move. And now, we've finally purchased the tower apartment we dreamt of. When we got married, we had deep conversations about our values and future plans, agreeing that acquiring our ideal home was most important. Both of us working, we cherished our careers while sharing a common dream, a promise between us. Working as an interior coordinator, my income has been higher than Tom's since the beginning of our marriage, taking on more financial responsibilities. When buying the tower apartment, we didn't compromise in searching for one that met our desires. Focusing on stylish interiors, which exceeded our budget. However, as I climbed the career ladder, I eventually earned twice as much as Tom, deciding to purchase this apartment close to his parents to fulfill our dream. Busy with work, we agreed to save money now and consider having children later, so we don't have kids yet, but we're starting to think about it. The move to our dream tower apartment is scheduled in 2 weeks. Even with busy schedules, we spend evenings preparing for the move. Sharing household chores as a working couple. Though we vowed to tackle everything together at the start of our marriage, Tom has recently stopped helping with housework. Today, too, dishes lay unwashed, trash scattered around. Once again, I come home tired from work later than Tom to clean up. Left in a mess again. I'm tired from work too, I said while tidying up the living room.
Tom, can we talk? Is now a good time? Yeah, what's up?
Our relationship seems to have changed recently. We used to respect each other so much, right?
Yeah, that's true. But why bring this up now?
Don't you think your attitude has changed recently? We're supposed to support each other as a working couple.
I haven't changed. It's just that I've gotten a bit busier.
I get that you're busy, but even so, I feel like the care for our home and our time together is fading. That's an exaggeration. I haven't changed. We just bought our dream tower apartment, so we're gonna need to cooperate more, right? We have to work together to pay off the mortgage from now on.
Yeah, you're right.
The next day, tired, I drop off my work bag and see the laundry. Tom, who had the day off, is sitting on the couch watching TV. Tom, you promised you'd hang the laundry. It's already evening.
Sorry. Got a bit busy.
I'm tired from work every day too. I wish you'd help share the chores a bit. Okay, got it. I'll do it later. Time passes, and while I'm preparing dinner in the kitchen, I notice the laundry still hasn't been hung.
Tom, the laundry's still not done. It's almost night, you know?
Forgot about that. Got a bit tired. Can it wait till tomorrow?
I understand being tired, but I'm the same. We need to help each other out.
Yeah. But I really want to rest today. I'll do it tomorrow.
We talked about sharing household chores since we're both working, remember?
It's fine. You've been doing it, Kate.
If you don't help, I'm busy with work too.
All right. Let's end this conversation.
That's how you always escape.
Another usual morning. I sip my coffee, discussing today's schedule with Tom.
I've got back-to-back meetings today. Looks like I'll be home late. What about you? Actually, I've quit my job. What? Why? All of a sudden? What's the reason? Just didn't feel like doing it anymore. But what about our finances? Our future plans? We'll figure something out. Kate's working too. We decided to support each other by both working.
I know, but I was at my limit with the stress from work.
I have stress too, but I'm trying to get through it without running away. And you should have talked to me before quitting your job.
Well, I had already decided, and saying it wouldn't have changed my mind, right? I know. I'll look for another job. It's not as serious as Kate thinks. We'll figure it out.
We can't just figure it out. We have a mortgage to pay. Find a job quickly, okay?
All right. Lately, my husband's become more selfish. Can marriage really change someone so much after 5 years? Another late night. I'm waiting in the living room. The clock already points past midnight, but Tom is still not home. The sound of the door unlocking. You're finally back. I was worried. Where have you been this late? Sorry. Just out drinking with some friends.
We're about to move. We need to get things ready. Haven't you been coming home late more often?
It's just a breather. Don't pry so much.
How's the job hunt? Any prospects? Stop nagging. I'm stressed too.
I notice Tom's phone on the table. The screen lights up.
Today was fun.
A message pops up, adorned with a heart. And there's Tom, absorbed in his phone again. Seems like he's exchanging messages. With a woman.
Messaging again at this hour. It's none of your business. Don't snoop through my private stuff. Enough. I'm going to sleep.
Tom's nights out, his late returns, and his irritable reactions.
Something's definitely off.
And then, the day of the move came. In a flurry, we somehow managed to move. And so, we've moved into our long-awaited tower apartment. For this move, we also swapped out furniture for pieces that fit the room better, but my absolute favorite is this big queen-sized bed. I was particular about the sheets and duvet cover too. That day, I ended up falling asleep on the couch while tidying up things here and there. The next day, I was supposed to be on a business trip. I really can't miss this trip. Sorry, it's right after we moved.
Oh. I'm gonna be job hunting all day today anyway, won't be back till late. Good luck with the job search. Well, I'm heading out now. Okay, take care.
In reality, there was no business trip. I took a day off. And the purpose was to investigate Tom's actions. Pretending to go on a trip, I left the house and immediately started up the pet camera app from the cafe next door. I left 2 cameras disguised as part of the interior in the living room and bedroom. The installed cameras allowed me to watch what was happening at home through my phone. After a while, I heard a woman's voice, and Tom letting her into the living room.
Incredible, the real thing is just as amazing as the show apartment. I really want to live here. Who's this woman?
She works at the model house. She guided us when we visited the tower apartment.
Let's kick him out and live here together, just the 2 of us. When will you do it? Soon enough. Just wait a bit. Okay.
Such conversations were heard. So this is the real Tom.
Just as I thought. Making a fool of me? Unforgivable.
Meanwhile, the 2 seemed to have gone into the bedroom. Tom's affair partner, Susan, was the employee who guided us at the model house. Tom and Susan's relationship started on the day he visited the apartment for viewing. Tom, taking a liking to Susan, kept talking to her. Despite sensing my gaze, Susan continued with the tour. Tom kept visiting, and gradually their relationship became personal. I switched the pet camera to the bedroom. What I saw from there was like a scene from hell. Forced to watch everything, I felt sick to my stomach. But I recorded every bit of it. This is irrefutable evidence. Modern pet cameras are really well made and useful.
No escaping now. Time to go.
I head home. And enter the room. Clothes and underwear are strewn about the living room. I ignore them and head straight for the bedroom. Then, I open the door with a click.
Tom, what are you doing while I'm away? Kate. You said you were job hunting all day today, didn't you? Is this what you call job hunting? What are you doing in my house taking advantage of my absence? This is my house. If you have a problem, we can divorce right now.
What is this man talking about?
Fine. Just make sure you don't regret it later. Huh? What are you talking about, huh? Get out, now.
I left the room. Getting angry won't change anything. But I can't let those 2 get away with this. That's it. I came up with an idea. I won't let them get away. I grab a toolbox and head back to the bedroom. They don't seem to notice me standing in front of the room. It seems they've started again.
What's with them? But now's my chance.
They seem completely unaware of my presence or any noise outside. I nailed the door shut, completely sealing it. Then, I decide to contact my in-laws. It's necessary for Tom's parents to know about his actions. So, I call my mother-in-law.
Mom, we successfully moved in yesterday. Could you and Dad please come over soon? I'd like to show you our new place. Oh, that's wonderful. And, there's a significant announcement to make, so please hurry. What kind of announcement? You'll understand once you're here. All right. We'll head over right away. I'll meet you in the lobby, so please be careful on your way.
It's just a stone's throw from my in-laws' house to this tower apartment, not even 10 minutes away. I greet them in the tower apartment's lobby.
Dad, Mom, welcome and thank you for coming. What a lovely apartment. Thanks for inviting us. I'm excited to see what the new place looks like. We weren't sure how to get in, so it's good you came down. Now, what's this big announcement?
You'll see once we get to the room. Under my guidance, we take the elevator up to our apartment.
Please, this way. Thank you. We'll make ourselves at home.
We entered. The shiny new entrance has flashy women's shoes placed around.
Huh? Is someone here? Do you have friends over?
No, Dad, Mom, please, come in.
Oh, is that so? Well then, we'll come in.
It seems my in-laws have also noticed the odd atmosphere. And as I lead them into the living room, they come face to face with the scattered clothing.
What is this? What's going on? What happened?
Dad, Mom, the reason I asked you two to come today is that there's something you need to know about Tom's actions.
What's happening?
Tom has been bringing his mistress into our home, taking advantage of the fact that I was supposed to be on a business trip. Tom is currently unemployed, and he said he was going to spend today job hunting.
Tom is unemployed?
Yes, he quit his job suddenly 2 weeks ago.
I had no idea. Tom. I'm so sorry, Kate.
Because of Tom's strange behavior, I lied about being on a business trip and have been keeping an eye on things. I showed them the pet camera disguised as decor in the living room.
This is a camera?
Yes, you can check the camera's footage through a smartphone app. I launched the smartphone app and show my in-laws the footage being recorded by the bedroom camera. Their own son and an unknown woman in an indecent state are displayed.
Oh, what on earth? I can't believe this.
My mother-in-law, seeing her son and his lover in such an unwelcome state, cries out in disdain. With my father-in-law shaking in anger, he says, "That guy? I'll never forgive him. Having an affair while Kate is here. And to bring his mistress to the new house we just moved into yesterday. It's unthinkable for my father-in-law, who is usually calm and kind, to imagine his son having an affair." Now, seemingly on the verge of exploding, he asks, "Kate, is this footage live?" "Yes, right now, in the bedroom."
Can you take us to the bedroom?
"Yes, of course." I lead my in-laws to the front of the bedroom door. Tom and Susan start panicking inside, possibly noticing because of my mother-in-law's shout.
Tom, did you hear that? Is someone here? Eh? That can't be. Kate left. I'll go check.
As Tom tries to open the room's door, he finds it won't budge. Huh? Why won't it open? Is it broken? He tries to open the door several times, but it doesn't open.
I wonder why. If it comes to it, I'll just have to force it.
Tom tried to force the door open, but it wouldn't budge at all.
Why? Is it locked from the outside? Eh? What's going on? Why won't it open?
Since I nailed it shut from the outside, it's no wonder the door won't open from the inside. Then, realizing something was amiss, Tom and Susan.
We need to get dressed. The living room.
Indeed, their underwear is strewn all over the living room. And there are no clothes or anything to change into in the bedroom.
What do we do?
That's when my father-in-law knocks on the door. Knock, knock.
Tom, you're in there, aren't you? With your mistress? Dad. What are you doing? Well. I can't forgive you for doing something like this.
They try to escape to the balcony and open the window, but this is the 30th floor of a tower apartment. There's no way down. And both of them are completely naked. In a panic, they wrap themselves in lace curtains and hide on the balcony.
Oh dear!
Their foolish attempt to hide is clearly visible through the pet camera.
I can't believe I married someone like this. It's almost laughable at this point.
Then, the moment of truth arrives. I remove the nails and unlock the door. Entering the bedroom with my in-laws. Tom and Susan are nowhere to be seen. Huh? Tom's not here? However, We know they're hiding on the balcony. We can just barely see Tom and Susan trying to hide, but I pretend not to notice and say, "The balcony door's been left unlocked." How careless, and then I lock it. Really? If you don't lock the door properly, it's careless. With that, we all left the bedroom.
Did they lock us out? What on earth? Open up! I'm sorry. Please open the door.
The scene of Tom and Susan wrapped in just a lace curtain, screaming from the 30th floor balcony of the tower apartment. It would surely shock the neighbors.
How ridiculous. You two can reflect out there for a while.
After leaving them on the balcony for some time, I threw their clothes into the room and unlocked the balcony door. Naturally, my in-laws were furious. Or rather, they were beyond appalled.
Thank goodness. Why would you do such a thing? Aren't you ashamed? There's no one else who has been as good to us as Kate. I'm so sorry for my stupid son's behavior.
Mom, please don't apologize. This is an issue between Tom and me. As Susan hastily tries to change and leave, I tell her, "You stay right here too." Then I play the recording of the conversation they had in the living room for everyone to hear.
Truly, beyond redemption.
Tom, you were planning to kick me out and live here with her, weren't you? Tom, now defiant, says, "Yeah, this house is mine, after all."
All right, let's divorce then. And of course, I'll be seeking alimony from both of you, so be prepared for that.
How he could misunderstand that this house would be his. And how an unemployed Tom would manage to pay is beyond me. I left the new apartment with a heavy sigh. There was sadness, of course, but more than that, I was resolved to do what needs to be done. I never imagined my life built up to this point would end in such a manner. However, it was time to look forward. To officially end my relationship with Tom, and for my own sake too. The next day, I immediately took action. First, I began by looking for a trustworthy lawyer. After researching on the internet, I found a law firm with a good reputation and quickly made an appointment for a consultation. On the day of the consultation, I visited the law office, nervous but explained everything calmly.
Kate, thank you for coming today. What can I assist you with?
The lawyer asked in a calm tone. I took a deep breath before starting.
My husband brought his mistress into our house on a day he thought I was away on a business trip. But the trip was a lie. I was actually monitoring his suspicious behavior. And I recorded the entirety of their affair with a pet camera.
I took out my smartphone and presented the recorded video and audio as evidence. The lawyer watched the footage intently. After listening to Tom and his mistress's conversation, he said quietly,
"These are very strong pieces of evidence. Please tell me about the impact on the household finances since Tom quit his job." Yes, after my husband became unemployed, I've been supporting all our household expenses, including the down payment for the tower apartment. If the affair is as clear as this, claiming alimony is entirely possible. Additionally, I would like to discuss the tower apartment's mortgage. On that matter, during the divorce proceedings, we can address the mortgage responsibility as well. Tom will have legal obligations, so we will negotiate firmly on that part.
The time I spent with Tom, the love, and the dreams encapsulated in our new home, all turned into a place of betrayal in an instant. A home should be a place of comfort, but for me, that apartment had become a source of deep emotional pain.
I won't live in that house anymore. But we've just moved in, and there's hardly any of the mortgage paid off. Since my husband became unemployed, I've been making all the payments. We can demand Tom to take responsibility for the mortgage payments in addition to alimony. However, whether an unemployed him has the capacity to pay now or in the foreseeable future. I understand. But I can't spend another day in that house. And given the situation he has caused, he must take responsibility for it.
The lawyer accepted my request, incorporating full payment of the mortgage by Tom and appropriate alimony payments into the divorce settlement. Later, accompanied by the lawyer, I went back to the new tower apartment. My concerned in-laws came along for support. How audacious Tom and Susan were, still living in the tower apartment. The lawyer then calmly read out the terms of the divorce settlement. While they had no choice but to accept the alimony terms, this much? We can't pay all of this. That's when I showed them the video recorded by the pet camera, with audio included.
Here, we have solid evidence.
I pointed out the pet camera disguised as an interior decor piece.
I had one in the living room and one in the bedroom. That's an invasion of privacy. Privacy? That's rich coming from you. This house is mine. It's my right to place cameras if I want to. They're there to keep out burglars, though I ended up catching a very different kind of thief. Ugh.
Susan was left speechless. Then, in addition to alimony, the lawyer informed Tom that he would also be responsible for repaying the down payment and remaining mortgage payments I had made.
This house was almost entirely built according to Kate's wishes. It's unreasonable for me to bear all the costs.
I really loved this house filled with my dreams.
Then you should bear some of the burden too.
My father-in-law glared at Tom.
What are you talking about? What did you do in this house filled with Kate's dreams? Moreover, Kate isn't even living here. You invited your mistress into the house and acted inappropriately. Who would want to live in such a house? That's obvious. You need to take full responsibility for the situation you caused.
With the support of my in-laws, the divorce negotiations concluded in my favor. The divorce proceedings went ahead with mutual consent. Tom was obligated to repay the remainder of the mortgage and the down payment I had made.
I no longer consider you my son. We're cutting ties with you.
My in-laws decided to sever ties with Tom. Susan, who had been working as a receptionist at a model house, was implicated by the evidence of her affair with Tom that I had provided. An emergency meeting was called, and Susan was summoned.
Do you understand that your actions have significantly damaged the company's reputation? I'm very sorry. Your actions have severely tarnished our reputation. It will take time to restore trust from our clients. Unfortunately, we cannot keep you at the company. You will have to leave. Yes. I never thought it would come to this.
The divorce between Tom and me finally settled by mutual agreement, but the affair scandal between a client and an employee that came to light in the process was majorly covered by the company, and of course, Susan was fired. The inappropriate relationship in the tower apartment cost Susan her career. And in the end, she broke up with Tom. He was jobless and still unable to find a job. The burden of the mortgage payments loomed over him.
Looks like I have no choice but to sell this apartment.
He alternated between looking at the mortgage statement and the tower apartment sales advertisement.
It might sell for a high price. That could actually turn into a profit.
Then he went to negotiate the sale with a real estate agent.
The charm of a new building is significant, but its value begins to depreciate as soon as you move in.
Trying to reduce the loan burden by selling the tower apartment, he was overwhelmed by the size of the remaining debt. Even letting go of it, the remaining mortgage balance was still a heavy load.
Why is the mortgage the only thing remaining?
Still, the mortgage for the tower apartment was too high to afford, so he had no choice.
Kate was earning that much. I didn't know.
It was too late when he realized how grateful he should have been. Tom had no choice but to start life in a cheap rental apartment. My days after the divorce began with self-recovery. On a quiet morning, I was walking in my usual park. In nature, I slowly began to face myself and feel inner healing. One day, I happened to meet Ken at a photography store where we shared a hobby. The two of us easily engaged in conversation through our DSLR cameras.
Photography is wonderful because it preserves moments forever. Yes, it's truly art that transcends time.
Over time, we shared many moments through photography, gradually closing the distance between our hearts. Ken approached my past wounds with kindness and understanding. I found myself being drawn to such a caring Ken. Even after divorcing Tom, I continued to have a good relationship with his parents. They cared for me and we kept in regular contact, deepening our bond even more than before. They still treat me like their own daughter to this day. Today, I plan to introduce my fiancé, Ken, to my parents.
I never imagined days like this would come, not so long ago. Kate, spending peaceful times like this with you is the greatest happiness for me.
My career is going well. Ken has become a popular photographer. In fact, we have purchased a new tower apartment. It ended up being even more expensive than the previous tower apartment, but it's a wonderful apartment that includes everything Ken and I wanted. I go to the lobby to meet Tom's parents.
Hello, Kate. Your new painting is really lovely. Kate, it's good to see you well. Thank you for coming.
We then went up to the apartment together in the elevator.
Excuse us. Oh, hello there. Nice to meet you, I'm Ken. Oh, is that so? Dad, Mom, this is my fiancé. I promise to make Kate happy, so please rest assured.
He seems like a kind and wonderful person. Kate, you're lucky. Please take care of her.
We're like Kate's parents, so feel free to rely on us anytime. Kate, congratulations truly. I'm really happy for you. Be happy.
Tom's parents felt responsible for the pain I suffered because of Tom, but seeing me find a wonderful partner and looking happy gave them peace of mind. Ken is very kind and always puts me first. And as a working couple, we share all the household chores. Ken, who enjoys cooking, prepares delicious meals every day. Meeting Ken has filled my days with happiness. I am very happy now. I truly believe that marriage is wonderful. One morning, suddenly, my father-in-law who I lived with passed away. I was always ignored, so honestly, I don't feel sad. My mother-in-law and Benjamin headed to prepare the venue earlier, and as I was getting ready, I heard Jackson making a phone call in the hallway. I married her out of pity because she can't have kids. It's basically charity. I gasped. And yet, she's so arrogant it's infuriating. Pretending to be Benjamin's mother when she's nothing but a maid. He laughed then. We'll have her cover the funeral cost. With that money, I'll buy a high-end bag for you. Charlotte wanted one, right? He continued talking, unaware that I was listening in the hallway. Trying to maintain my composure, my body trembled with rage. I'll put an end to this. This person is neither family nor anything to me. I'll let out all the pent-up frustration I've been holding back. He's mistaken if he thinks I'll always be docile. I am Madison, a 50-year-old housewife. I married Jackson 11 years ago, and have been living with my stepson Benjamin and my in-laws since. The reason Jackson and I met was through a mutual friend. After being dumped by my fiancé because of infertility, feeling depressed, a friend, feeling sorry for me, organized a gathering with their friends for drinks. Jackson was not very talkative but seemed sincere. We found common ground in our love for movies, and he was the one who suggested we start dating with marriage in mind. His ex-wife was into gambling, racked up debt, and left, abandoning her young son. When I heard he was looking for a mother for his son, I met Benjamin on one of our dates. Benjamin, without any shyness, quickly took a liking to me. Later, when I was introduced to my in-laws, they seemed like nice people, and by our one-year anniversary, I strongly desired to become part of Jackson's family. But looking back, it was clear that Jackson and my in-laws had been deceiving me all along. Fooled, I had a simple wedding and started living with Jackson and Benjamin. Shortly after getting married, Jackson asked me to become a full-time housewife. I enjoyed my clerical job and wanted to continue, but he was persistent. I want you to focus on Benjamin. You can return to work once he's a bit older. All right. I could see where Jackson was coming from. After all, I was inexperienced in raising children. The idea of raising someone else's child properly was also a source of anxiety for me. I sought advice from friends who had children, and desperately gathered information from the internet and parenting books. Initially, Benjamin seemed affectionate towards me, but as he grew older, he started to assert his independence and eventually began to talk back. Instead of consoling me, Jackson would mock me with a smirk.
Seems like a real mom is different. After all, you're just a stranger. Stop it! Why do you have to say things like that?
When I objected, Jackson raised his eyebrows in surprise.
What's wrong with telling the truth?
Jackson was always out, either at work or drinking with colleagues. He completely dumped childcare on me, yet all he did was make snide remarks. And whenever Benjamin did something he didn't like, he blamed it all on me.
Crying all the time is because of Madison's bad parenting. Got a cold again? Probably malnutrition. It's because you feed him instant food for lunch.
He'd get cranky teaching multiplication to Benjamin, who had just started elementary school, complaining about his slow learning.
He's just learned addition. Multiplication is too soon for him.
When I protested, Jackson laughed as if he was astonished.
I was able to do middle school work at his age. Looks like Madison's stupidity has rubbed off on him.
He'd smirk at me, saying, "Well, you're just a high school grad, right?" When Benjamin was around 8 years old, we started living with his parents. This was never part of the plan, but it suddenly came up because of my mother-in-law's deteriorating health.
I was told I have high blood pressure at a medical checkup. I need to undergo treatment and follow a diet.
Hearing this, Jackson suggested they move in with us.
It'll be easier if you come to our place. Mom doesn't have a driver's license, and it's tough to go to appointments, right? Madison can drive you.
I couldn't believe my ears. It's one thing if he were to help, but why try to play the filial son at my expense? He did that without even asking me.
Oh, is that okay? That'd be a great help. We were struggling with the cost of remodeling the house. Great. Once you've sold the house, you can move in any time.
I was flabbergasted by Jackson's audacity.
This house is my inheritance from my parents, you know.
After hanging up the phone, Jackson nonchalantly informed me.
So, my parents are moving in, just so you know. Just so I know? Don't decide things on your own. Talk to me first. It's my house.
Jackson made a displeased face.
You don't like living with my parents? It's not that. It's natural for a wife to take care of her mother-in-law. You're free anyway, so be useful.
My opinion was completely ignored, and soon the living with his parents began. Living together meant being at the mercy of my mother-in-law. She would complain about the weather, feeling sluggish, or just not in the mood. She used these as excuses to avoid going to the hospital.
Then let's not go. You're okay with your illness getting worse? What a terrible person.
On the other hand, if I insisted too much on going, she'd get annoyed at being nagged. Once finally in the car, it was a barrage of complaints.
Your driving is reckless. Drive safely. Don't drive so slow. Speed it up.
As soon as we got home, she sat on the sofa and started complaining.
I got car sick because of you. Why are you so bad at driving?
She could use the bus that goes from the nearest bus stop right to the hospital. But I guess she thinks the bus fare is a waste of money. Not just for doctor visits, my mother-in-law complains about the house too.
This house feels so old-fashioned. Are you sure it was remodeled? It's uncomfortable not being designed for two families.
And that's her line, even though she's the one imposing on us. My father-in-law had his quirks too. Even when Jackson and his mother criticized me, he wouldn't join in, so I thought he was on my side, but it seemed he just wanted to avoid conflict. Proof of that is, he wouldn't respond to greetings, and when he did talk to me, it was only to ask what's for dinner, or is the bathroom clean, as if he wanted to interact with me as little as possible, and then I found out he spends his days at gambling or going to the races. If he's got that much free time, I really wish he'd drive my mother-in-law to her appointments. After all, she is his wife. My mother-in-law also had a lot to say about the meals I prepared. His parents prefer a fish-based diet. However, Jackson and Benjamin like stronger flavors, so I have to prepare different menus for them. As if that wasn't hard enough, my mother-in-law needs a low-sodium diet, so I end up making 3 different meals for 5 people. Without knowing how much trouble I go through planning the menu every day, my mother-in-law complained.
"This is bland. I can't eat something this tasteless. You're doing this to spite me, aren't you? What a mean daughter-in-law. When it's low in salt, it's naturally going to be bland. Please bear with it."
Then my mother-in-law complained to Jackson.
"Jackson, Madison is being horrible to me."
Jackson looked annoyed at my mother-in-law's complaint.
"Make something tastier. If you say so, why don't you cook?"
When I said that, caring yet firm, my mother-in-law glared at me.
A wife talking back to her husband. Anyway, please bear with the bland taste. Making excuses for your poor cooking skills.
Despite having pushed the cooking onto me because she can't cook, it seems she doesn't have a shred of gratitude. Slowly, I started to feel disillusioned with Jackson always siding with my mother-in-law. One day, as I was walking back from shopping, I stopped in my tracks when I overheard my mother-in-law talking. I wondered what she was discussing, but she was actually spreading bad things about me to the neighbors.
My daughter-in-law is so defiant. Living off Jackson's salary, yet she's always talking back to me and Jackson. Does she even understand her place? Really? Lazing around at home without working, always neglecting the housework. She pushes cleaning and laundry onto me and does nothing.
Listening in from behind a fence, I was dumbfounded. Ever since we started living together, my mother-in-law hasn't even washed a single cup.
Looks like this daughter-in-law is a dud too. It's bad for Benjamin's upbringing. Jackson too, but your grandson is the biggest victim here. Poor thing.
The resident's tone of pity made my mother-in-law dramatically lament. "See, it's me.
Stressed out by being bossed around by her, and now my stomach hurts. You've had a tough time. Don't push yourself too hard."
I finally understood. No wonder I've been avoided by the neighbors recently. I clenched my fists, calming my anger with great effort, and took the long way home. That evening, when Jackson came home, I confronted him about my mother-in-law's actions.
"Don't you think spreading rumors is a bit much?" He was just agreeing with what the neighbors said.
Jackson made a face of disgust.
"You just need to improve your cooking skills." "I'm doing the best I can." "Anyway, just try to get along, will you?"
I was driven by a sense of helplessness and anger. Do I have to keep enduring these snide remarks every day? When Benjamin became a teenager, he hit his rebellious phase. Having grown up seeing Jackson and my in-laws look down on me, it was natural that he would mock me. He hurled insults at me like it was nothing.
"Wash my gym clothes by today. I need them for tomorrow. Leftovers for lunch? That's just being lazy. You're a stay-at-home wife, you have time to make something proper. I hate this brand of stock. Know my preferences at least. You're useless."
Despite relying on me for everything, he was always finding faults. And unbelievably, he would kick me out of the house when his friends came over.
"Stay out of sight. It'd be fine if you were beautiful, but having an old hag like you around is embarrassing. This is my house."
"Don't get cocky.
You're eating off my dad's salary, aren't you?"
Jackson and the in-laws, who were nearby, didn't seem to care at all. Furious, I finally scolded Benjamin.
"If you keep up this attitude, I'll stop taking care of you altogether." "Abandoning your child? You're a failure as a mother."
Benjamin became enraged. Then, Jackson interjected with a look of annoyance.
"Madison, don't react to everything the kid says.
It's immature."
"I'm correcting his rude behavior towards adults."
I raised my voice, pouring out my grievances.
"Hey, why don't you get involved with Benjamin a bit more as a father? I'm providing for the family, isn't that enough?"
Jackson glared at me, defiant.
"Who do you think allows you to have such an easy life every day? Since you're useless and can't earn money, the least you could do is devote yourself to my family."
He yelled at me loudly.
Otherwise, there's no point in keeping you in this house. If you don't like it, we can get a divorce. I'll kick you out right now. And to think you can't even have kids, what a failure.
I was close to tears. To think he could say such horrible things so calmly. Behind Jackson, Benjamin and my mother-in-law were looking at me with malicious smiles. Then I'll start working. I can contribute to society too. Working from home would be okay, right? Who would want to hire you? If you slack off on the housework, I'll make you quit immediately. After this exchange, I decided to start working from home. I had experience as a sales admin until a few years ago, so I was good with computer work. I registered with an outsourcing company, and eventually, I started getting constant work requests as I built up my performance. I worked in the bedroom, from late at night until early morning, when the family was asleep. Lately, Jackson has been sleeping in the study, bringing a bed in there, so I can use the computer at night without complaints. I would prefer to work in the sunny living room during the day, but my mother-in-law spends all day glued to the TV, watching talk shows and historical dramas, so that's almost impossible. By the time Benjamin entered high school, my work had stabilized, and I was able to save a fixed amount every month. One morning, as usual, my mother-in-law went to wake up her husband and came down to the kitchen looking pale. While preparing breakfast and Jackson drinking coffee at the dining table, she said in a shaky voice,
"Dad is..."
"What?" We all rushed to the bedroom, and there was my father-in-law, lying in bed as if he were asleep, having passed away. After that, it was chaos. Jackson took over for the panicked mother-in-law, calling the family doctor to issue a death certificate, arranging the funeral service, and taking care of all the other procedures. Seeing my mother-in-law usually so strong, now in a daze, I felt somewhat sorry for her. But that feeling quickly vanished. While I was doing the cleaning, laundry, and meal preparation as usual, my mother-in-law said spitefully,
"You sure can keep your cool. After all, you've been taken care of by your father. Don't you have a human heart?"
As I was setting the table, I looked at my mother-in-law with disdain and sighed softly. I can say this for certain. I never once felt taken care of by my father-in-law since getting married. Being with my father-in-law made me feel like I was air, it was unpleasant. So, it feels strange suddenly not having him around, but I don't feel sad in the slightest. Well, I'm still his daughter-in-law, so I'll attend the funeral and fulfill my duties. With that in mind, I took out clothes from the closet on the second floor and prepared a bag. Benjamin and my mother-in-law said they would prepare the funeral home and left the house before me. As I was getting dressed and walking down the stairs, I heard Jackson's voice. He seemed to be talking to someone on his phone.
"Yeah, Dad, just suddenly. So, I'm a bit tied up with everything. I'll be a bit late to meet you tonight. Sorry, especially since it's an important day."
I felt a sense of discomfort. In front of my mother-in-law, he acted sorrowful, but his voice didn't sound like someone whose father had just died.
"Why did I marry such a plain woman?"
Jackson explained with a laugh.
"I felt sorry for her because she can't have kids. Basically, it was for charity."
I gasped.
"And yet, she's so cheeky it's annoying. Acting like she's Benjamin's mother when she's just a maid."
He chuckled then.
"I'll have her cover the funeral cost. With that money, I'll buy a high-brand bag for you. Charlotte wanted one, right?"
He continued talking in a cheery tone, unaware that I was listening in the hallway. When I showed my face after he ended the call, he was startled for a moment but quickly put on a smile.
"Oh, you were here?"
"Yes."
"Aren't you leaving yet?" "I'm heading out now. Want to ride together?"
"Maybe I will." Trying to keep calm, my body trembled with anger. I murmured in my heart, "I'm done with this. Such a person is neither family nor anything to me. I'll vent all the frustration I've been holding back. He's mistaken if he thinks I'll stay quiet forever." The next morning, as I sat leisurely on a sofa drinking coffee, my phone rang. It was Jackson. Early in the morning, calls from Jackson came every few minutes. The barrage of messages was intense. Even though I saw the messages, I didn't respond at all, so he must have switched to calling out of impatience. Sighing, I answered the phone to Jackson, ranting rapidly.
Hey, what are you doing? The funeral's about to start. Oh, really? That has nothing to do with me.
Jackson was furious at my casual response.
What? Stop messing around and get here now. I thought you went home because you disappeared from the wake, but then you just vanished.
I calmly replied to the frantic Jackson.
That's impossible. There's rush hour traffic, and it's over a 2-hour drive by car.
I sent a photo I took through the window to Jackson's phone, and he yelled.
Where the hell are you? I'm at a hotel in the next city. I've always wanted to try their breakfast buffet. Food made by someone else is the best. You're skipping a family funeral to stay at a hotel? Are you out of your mind?
I coldly replied to the barking Jackson.
Well, I'm not family, am I? Just a maid. I have no obligation to attend the funeral.
Jackson fell silent then. After a short silence, he told my mother-in-law and Benjamin.
Mom, Benjamin, just wait here for a bit.
Footsteps echoed. It seemed like they were moving down the hallway of the funeral venue. Eventually, the footsteps stopped, and Jackson spoke again.
First off, give me your bank account number.
What?
Why? We need to pay for the funeral service, don't we? So you're saying I should cover it because you misused funds?
After a moment of being speechless, Jackson yelled in desperation.
That's right. I know you've been hoarding it. You can easily spare something like $20,000, can't you? If I give it to you, it'll never come back, right? Deal with it yourself. How dare you speak to me like that?
Over the phone, I could sense Jackson's panic.
A wife should just silently obey her husband. A wife isn't a slave.
I sneered at Jackson.
Anyway, why don't you just be honest with your mom? She's soft on you, so she might just give it to you easily.
My words made Jackson's voice shrink.
That's impossible. If she found out I spent the funeral money on a woman, she'd definitely get mad.
I smirked. Even he's afraid of his mother.
Serves you right. It's your own fault. I'm busy, so I'm hanging up now.
Jackson was still shouting something, but I hung up. If he's too embarrassed to say it himself, I'll pass the message along to him. Sharing the info about him spending the donation on a woman in the family's shared social media will surely catch Benjamin and my mother-in-law's eye. After that, Jackson called me incessantly, so in frustration, I dashed to the mobile shop. How can I help you?
I want to cancel my phone plan now.
Sure. Canceling my phone and changing my number filled me with a sense of relief. Returning to the hotel, I wandered the nearby streets with a leisurely feeling. Ever since getting married, I had to report my outing plans and return time to Jackson, and there were even times he'd call come home soon. I never thought much of it before, but looking back, it was a terrible constraint. Jackson must be flustered not being able to contact me by now. Serves him right. I'll ignore him forever. Wrapped in a refreshing sense of freedom, I enjoyed shopping at my leisure. One day, I visited a church. My mother-in-law had mentioned that they were holding the service on the previous Sunday morning. I confirmed Jackson's car was parked in the parking lot. Likely, the other cars parked alongside it belonged to relatives. I opened the gate and stepped on the cobblestone path leading to the main hall. Listening closely, I could hear the murmur of casual conversation. The service had ended, and it seemed everyone was relaxing while having a chat.
Hello everyone, it's been a while.
As I opened the entrance door and greeted them, the room fell silent for a moment before a wave of reproachful voices erupted.
Madison! Skipping both the wake and the funeral, what were you thinking? It was your husband's father's funeral, for heaven's sake. Your own father has already passed, so he was practically your real parent.
I flashed a cold smile.
Well, I've been officially designated as the maid, you see.
While I tossed out this sarcastic remark and glanced at Jackson, he was glaring at me with furious eyes.
I did my best to serve your father and mother. I even tried to fulfill the role of Benjamin's mother to the best of my ability.
I looked over my mother-in-law, Jackson, and Benjamin in turn and shrugged.
But according to Jackson, I'm just a maid. A mere maid shouldn't attend the funeral, right?
So, I refrained.
I never said such a thing.
Jackson's voice cracked. I exhaled softly and pressed the play button on my phone's recording app. The conversation I had overheard on the stairs filled the quiet lounge with loud volume. As Jackson turned pale, I pressed on.
By the way, now that the funeral's over, did my mother-in-law end up covering the donation? What?
As the relatives looked bewildered, Jackson and my mother-in-law exchanged glances before awkwardly averting their eyes.
No, well, you see, Madison, what are you talking about? It's impossible to spend $20,000 in one night.
Don't talk nonsense. Jackson attempted a forced laugh in front of me as I swiped through my phone.
I found this. Are you familiar with this person? To boldly show their face like this, quite fearless, aren't they?
The image I showed froze Jackson. It was a photo of a woman snuggled up close to a man. Though their eyes were hidden, the man was dressed in a dark suit and black tie. Furthermore, the woman had commented,
"Happy to have my dear Jackson drop by during the wake. Choosing a date with me over saying goodbye to his dad, I'm so happy. He even bought me the $20,000 bag I've been wanting at the brand shop. Isn't it cute?"
As Jackson reached out to snatch the phone, I kept it out of his reach, holding it high for the relatives at the back to see.
I searched for this Charlotte person on social media, just going through everything. You can't pretend it's a coincidence with all these details matching up, right?
Realizing excuses were futile, Jackson shut his mouth, a frightened expression on his face. Even Benjamin, usually his father's defender, was at a loss for words. The relatives began to condemn Jackson in unison.
Leaving the wake under the pretext of retrieving something, just to meet your mistress. Shameful.
Previously silent relatives couldn't hold back any longer and erupted in anger.
You bought a brand bag with the donation money. Rushing out before the funeral started must have been to withdraw money from the bank. What a disgrace of a son. Shut up. It was our first date in a month. And since Mom covered the money, it's all good now.
Jackson retorted defensively.
To me, a date is more important than a funeral. If I skipped it and got dumped, it would be a huge problem. Cut me some slack.
Even my mother-in-law was taken aback by this.
Jackson, how could you say such a thing?
Well, it's just an honest opinion, isn't it? Smiling, I spread out Benjamin's bankbook in front of everyone.
Given he shamelessly claims dating is more important than his father, it's no wonder he'd accidentally use his son's savings, right?
Benjamin, peering over, soon looked utterly defeated.
It's empty. This has to be a joke.
He turned to Jackson, accusing him fiercely.
Did you use my savings, Dad? You're the only one who knew the PIN. You knew I've been saving up my money since Mom was around, didn't you?
Jackson, shamelessly smiling, responded.
Well, I tried to use Madison's money, but didn't know the PIN. You had saved quite a bit, huh? That's my boy. Don't mess around. Is that what a father does?
Benjamin screamed, tears in his eyes.
I don't want to call you my father anymore. I'm disowning you right here.
My mother-in-law tried to calm the enraged Benjamin.
Benjamin, forgive him. Thanks to your dad, we get to eat delicious food every day, don't we? Giving your dad your pocket money isn't such a big deal. My money, too, probably went to his mistress, right? It's fine to give gifts, but use your own money. Why are you touching mine?
Benjamin voiced a very valid question.
And the same goes for Granddad's funeral. After all the bad-mouthing, trying to get the money covered by someone else makes no sense. Pay it yourself. What's not there can't be given,
I said, looking at Jackson, and chuckled softly.
Judging by the social media, you've been giving her expensive gifts every time you meet, right? The reason you divorced your previous wife was also because of your infidelity, wasn't it?
Pointing this out, Jackson and my mother-in-law were left speechless with uncomfortable expressions. It seemed Benjamin hadn't been told any of this.
What a nasty woman. Did you even research the cause of our divorce?
I snorted at Jackson's discomfort.
I just thought I'd learn about your past, so I contacted your best friend through an acquaintance. Then, I stumbled upon some interesting stories.
Just then, my phone buzzed with a message, so I stood up.
Excuse me for a moment. I have to welcome a guest.
I left the lounge and headed to the entrance. Returning to the main hall with a couple in tow, Jackson gasped.
Lucas! And Charlotte too!
Sorry, Jackson. I ended up spilling everything to Lucas. Charlotte looked downcast, while Lucas was visibly furious.
Lucas, calm down. You're misunderstanding. We weren't having an affair, okay?
It's no use, Jackson. I spoke with a look of disbelief.
Lucas, I found your and Charlotte's text exchanges on the phone. I had a detective agency thoroughly investigate.
So, no escaping this one. Lucas stared straight at Jackson with bloodshot eyes.
Even though you have a bad history with women, I trusted you because you were my best friend. I never imagined you'd secretly meet her at a hotel the day after we went drinking. And then, you kept sneaking into my house while I was away on business trips, didn't you?
With veins bulging at his temples, Lucas yelled resentfully.
I should never have introduced her to you. Come on, my encounter with Charlotte was fate.
Jackson said, grinning smugly.
I'm more suitable for Charlotte than you ever could be. What? Keep your dreams for your sleep. That's ridiculous, right?
Jackson pouted.
I got stuck with a plain, older woman, while you marry a young and cute one. Plus, Charlotte said she fell in love with me at first sight.
Jackson laughed out loud while Lucas clenched his fists.
As you wish, I'll divorce Charlotte. Expect a lawsuit for alimony, and be ready to pay. I don't have that kind of money. I've already spent a lot on Charlotte, and just paying my ex-wife was hard enough.
Jackson said defiantly.
Well, I'll pay with the inheritance from Dad. Right, Mom?
Jackson beamed, but my mother-in-law murmured softly.
There's no such thing. Huh? If we had money, we wouldn't have moved into your place but renovated our old house and lived there.
My mother-in-law spoke with a grim face. I nodded in agreement. My mother-in-law's decision to live together wasn't by choice but due to unavoidable circumstances.
But you had savings for retirement, didn't you?
Jackson showed panic, to which my mother-in-law sadly shook her head.
After retiring, your father spent it all on horse racing. He even gambled away the pension, covering the shortfall with loans. So, there's no inheritance.
Jackson turned pale and shrieked.
No way, give me a break. I moved in with you guys thinking I'd get a hefty inheritance.
My mother-in-law's face darkened with anger.
You were planning this all along? Of course. Otherwise, why would I bother calling you parents over? It's annoying.
Jackson said irritably.
All the living expenses I've covered, just wasted. It's like throwing it down the drain.
Disappointment appeared on my mother-in-law's face.
Is money all you think about? It's my dad's fault, can't help it.
Charlotte smirked, having listened to the whole exchange.
I went out with you because you graduated from a better university and worked for a renowned company than Lucas did.
What a disappointment. Approaching the stiffened Jackson, she declared firmly.
Thanks for all the lavish gifts.
By now.
What? Hey! We're not done talking yet, Charlotte.
Lucas chased after her, heading out the door.
Poor thing, got dumped, huh? No inheritance, and your affair partner turns her back on you. Talk about a double whammy.
I gave Jackson a sympathetic smile.
Paying alimony to both Lucas and me seems like it's going to be tough for you. Well, good luck with that. Hey, Madison, wait!
Jackson tried to stop me with a domineering tone as I was about to leave.
How are you going to live if you divorce me with your meager salary? I don't necessarily want a divorce. If you keep doing the housework, I don't mind keeping you around as before.
I exploded in anger at Jackson's arrogance.
Enough already. Who do you think you are?
My outburst surprised Jackson, Benjamin, and my mother-in-law, who all froze in shock.
That house is mine, isn't it? I'm the one who's been letting you three stay there. And let me tell you, it was because of me doing all the housework that the house was running smoothly. Don't you understand that? Madison, calm down. After all the ridicule, you don't even understand that much? Your intelligence is as expected.
My sneering at Jackson caused laughter to break out among the relatives.
I've been offered to return to my previous job as a full-time employee. I can live just fine on my own. Maybe you should worry about your debt-ridden self?
Yeah, Dad. We're in a worse situation. Benjamin also tried to stop me in a panic.
Come on, we're family, right? If you become a full-time employee, contribute your salary to the household. We're going bankrupt at this rate.
Benjamin's pathetic plea was echoed by my mother-in-law.
Running away, even though you're just a wife? Help us out for once.
I turned back to the three of them with a cold remark.
Have you forgotten how you've treated me until now? There's no place for a maid in this. Madison! Family of three, please help each other out. And I'll be expecting you to move out of the house promptly.
I left the church. Returning to the hotel, I sent Jackson the signed divorce papers. I plan to live in the hotel until those three move out. Though they left quietly, Jackson kept stalling on the alimony payments. I wanted to reconcile, but she pushed for the divorce, was his excuse. Convinced by the lawyer that a court divorce would cost extra, and is it really worth it, a pale-faced Jackson finally gave in and transferred the alimony to my account. To pay the alimony to me, he had to take on more debt and even started working part-time jobs since his salary wasn't enough. Jackson apparently told his boss and co-workers that the divorce was due to irreconcilable differences. However, since Lucas's friend worked in a different department, the true reason spread throughout the company. Feeling uncomfortable, Jackson quit his job as if fleeing. Naturally, his income plummeted. Now, he's juggling multiple part-time jobs, desperately trying to pay off his debts. Despite once being so close, the family relations have deteriorated. Benjamin has become thoroughly rebellious, skipping school and barely showing up at the shabby apartment the three of them moved into, choosing instead to hang out and waste time. My mother-in-law has not forgiven Jackson for agreeing to live together with inheritance in mind and now refuses to even speak to him. The incident of stealing Lucas's wife spread like wildfire among friends, and Jackson, having lost all his friends, is leading a lonely life. Having returned to my previous job as a full-time employee, I'm working full-time without having to worry about anyone else, enjoying my life alone. Only now do I fully realize how difficult living with those three had been. From now on, I plan to work while taking care of my health and savoring the rest of my life to the fullest.